Chapter 578. The High Priestess chuckled, obviously in a good mood. She couldn't chase her away. From the looks of it, the High Priestess was the one who cured him. He couldn't possibly fall out with her the moment he recovered. Where is the girl by my side? She recalled what happened and realized that Fengwu wasn't by his side. He frowned slightly. Your Highness Ming-Shi, don't worry. Miss Fengwu is eating in the garden with the queen. The High Priestess continued to chuckle. Ming-Shi heaved a sigh of relief. He stepped out of the bathtub, put on his shoes, and walked out of the room. Your Highness, wait a moment. Your body has just recovered. Don't run around so quickly. The High Priestess chased after him. Her old legs weren't slow. She shouted as she chased, attracting the attention of the surrounding palace maids and guards. She pretended that he didn't hear anything. He didn't stop and walked towards the garden. When he reached the pavilion where people usually rested, he saw his Empress Mother and Fengwu sitting together, eating exquisite and delicious food and desserts. The Moon Empress kept helping Fengwu pick up food while the Fengwu girl buried her head in her food. The two of them happily fed each other and cooperated quite well. She felt that he wasn't valued that much. He was clearly hiding in the bathtub, waiting for treatment, but the two women he loved the most were sitting together, eating, drinking, and laughing. She instantly felt like he had received 10,000 points of damage. Ming-Shi. The Moon Empress was the first to notice Ming-Shi. Seeing her son walk out safely, the Moon Empress was delighted. Everyone could hear the joy in her voice. When Fengwu heard the two words Ming-Shi, she stopped eating and turned around. Sure enough, she saw the youth who was as beautiful as the moonlight. That absolutely beautiful figure. Fengwu's eyes lit up, and she flew into Ming-Shi's arms like a happy little bird. The young girl hugged the young man tightly, and there was a trace of obvious joy on her expressionless face. Ming-Shi was pushed back 2 steps by the young girl who threw herself into his arms. His body had just recovered, and although he had regained his consciousness, his strength had not yet fully recovered. If he wanted to fully recover, he would have to eat 2 days of tonics to replenish his blood essence and strength. After taking 2 steps back, Ming-Shi immediately stabilized his body so that he would not make a fool of himself in front of everyone in the hall. Be careful, the Moon Empress said worriedly when she saw that Ming-Shi couldn't stand steadily. I'm fine. Ming-Shi smiled and shook his head at the Moon Empress. Don't worry, I'm fine. Ming-Shi lowered his head and looked at the girl's dark head, his eyes as gentle as water. Does it hurt? Fengwu looked up and asked seriously. It doesn't hurt. I just don't have much strength. I'll be fine after resting for 2 days. Ming-Shi said. No strength. Don't worry, I'll carry you. I have a lot of strength. The Fengwu girl looked at Ming-Shi with her big black eyes and said seriously to Ming-Shi. I don't think there's a need. Ming-Shi coughed softly and felt a little helpless. All right. Come and sit down. The Moon Empress almost laughed out loud. Why was Xiao Wu so cute? While speaking, the Moon Empress walked forward and pulled the 2 people who were still hugging each other into the pavilion where they were having their meal. You Shi, have some too. This is the spirit fruit chicken soup that I asked the kitchen to prepare. It's very nourishing. You have to drink more. The Moon Empress pulled the 2 of them to sit down, and a clever palace maid immediately served Ming-Shi some soup. Ming-Shi sat between Fengwu and the Moon Empress. He picked up the soup that the palace maid served and drank a mouthful. This soup was indeed made with extremely precious and rare spirit fruits and snow chicken. It tasted extremely delicious. As soon as the soup slid down his throat, he immediately felt a burning sensation in his dantian. It was as if there was power gushing out from his dantian, making him feel incomparably comfortable. This soup is not bad. Ming-Shi praised with a smile. Of course it's not bad. Mother personally went to pick the snow chicken for you. These spirit fruits were contributed by Xiao Wu to nourish your body. The fruits that Xiao Wu took out are all treasures and extremely valuable. You have to thank Xiao Wu properly. The Moon Empress was very fond of Fengwu. She had seen many people with ulterior motives, but she hadn't seen someone as pure as Fengwu for a long time. "You're welcome," Fengwu said expressionlessly. Ming-Shi patted her little head and smiled even more gently. The high priest chased after them and saw the family of three happily eating and chatting. The high priest stroked his beard. "Forget it, I won't disturb their family reunion. I'd better go home and read." The high priest stroked his beard and left with a sigh. The three of them had a heartwarming lunch together. Fengwu was brought to rest by the Moon Empress while Ming-Shi went to the Moon Emperor's study to explain why he ended up like this. This matter couldn't be avoided. He had to explain it clearly sooner or later. "Tell me, how did you end up like this?" The Moon Emperor put down the half-read document and looked at his youngest son helplessly and proudly. Ming-Shi had no choice but to tell her what had happened after he entered the territory of Duke Blue Moon. The reason he ended up like this was because he was too strong. He had used more power than he could use at his current level, and his body had been severely damaged. If he had not inherited the blood of Moon King and had the protection of the sacred blood, he would not have just fallen into a deep sleep. His life force would have been sucked dry, and he would have died just like that. After the Moon Emperor heard what happened, he didn't know what to say. He thought that the Blue Moon Duke attacked Ming-Shi, and that was why Ming-Shi ended up like this. It turned out that he was the one who did it. If this kid couldn't deal with the Blue Moon Duke, he would have come to the Moon Emperor. Why did he have to be so stubborn? Did he know that his own safety was related to the future of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom? He didn't take himself seriously. The Moon Emperor didn't know that Ming-Shi had gone to the Blue Moon Duke. He only knew that something had happened to Ming-Shi's sweetheart, and she was in a very dangerous situation. That was why Ming-Shi was in such a hurry to save her. He even borrowed the Moon Emperor's inherited weapon. If he knew that this kid was going to the Blue Moon Duke, he wouldn't have agreed to let him go alone. The Blue Moon Duke was an old monster who had lived for God knows how long. He wasn't someone Han Sen could deal with right now. Moon King was furious. He scolded Ming-Shi for a while before letting him go back to his room to rest. Moon King looked at his son's back as he left. He couldn't help but wonder if a man's IQ would drop after falling in love. His son used to be so smart. How did he become so stupid? He knew that he was no match for the Blue Moon Duke, but he still insisted on rushing forward. If it wasn't for the Blue Moon Duke giving face to the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom, Ming-Shi might have died in the Blue Moon world. Under the care of the Moon Empress and Fengwu, who brought soup and tonics to Ming-Shi every day, Ming-Shi's body recovered very well. There weren't any side effects left behind. Even his hand injury was almost healed. As long as he didn't use his injured hand to do any difficult martial arts or move things, he would be fully recovered in half a month. Chapter 579. Under the care of the Moon Empress and Fengwu, who brought soup and tonics to Ming-Shi every day, Ming-Shi's body recovered very well. There weren't any side effects left behind. Even the injury on his hand was almost healed. As long as he didn't use his injured hand to do any difficult martial arts moves or move things around, he would be able to fully recover in at most half a month. In a mountain 1,000 miles away from the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom, Beauty was slowly walking down the mountain. Demonic energy was rolling around Beauty's body. Her eyes, lips, and hair had all turned pitch black. Her temperament had become even more bewitching and demonic. It was obvious that she wasn't a normal human at first glance. Suddenly, a voice came from not far ahead. Beauty coldly smiled, and her body actually underwent an earth-shattering change. The devil chi on her body actually quickly disappeared, and her black hair, black eyes, and black lips also quickly returned to their normal color at a speed visible to the naked eye. Her originally demonic and bewitching temperament had also become noble and elegant. It was obvious that she was a noble girl with an extraordinary background. There's actually someone here. A lively voice sounded, with a hint of surprise in the voice. Hello. May I ask if you are adventurers who have entered the mountain for a mission? I met with an accident and ended up here. If it's convenient, can you take me with you and leave this mountain forest? Of course, I won't let you lead the way for me for free. I will pay you. Beauty looked at the adventurers with a face full of urgency, her eyes begging as she spoke. The adventurers naturally wouldn't believe a stranger who had suddenly appeared. They asked several questions and confirmed Beauty's identity before agreeing to take her down the mountain. These adventurers knew that Beauty was the granddaughter of an elder of the Adventurers Guild. They treated her very well and didn't even mention the promised reward. The granddaughter of an elder of the Adventurers Guild was a true young miss. If they could earn a few gold coins and gain the favor of this noble girl, why wouldn't they do it? The team that Mei Luo had temporarily joined was a small team of 5. There was a 15 to 16-year-old girl and 4 grown men. The oldest of the 4 men was the girl's father. The others were all acquaintances that she usually took on missions with. Their ages were all about the same. The youngest was around 27 or 28 years old, while the other 3 were all above 30 years old. Ever since this girl named Wei Wei found out about Mei Luo's identity, she had been trying to curry favor with her. Mei Luo had seen this kind of expression and gaze since she was young. How could she not know that this girl called Wei Wei was trying to please her? Mei Luo was disdainful in her heart, but on the surface, she still looked noble and polite, not showing any disrespect. The few men secretly sighed that she was indeed from a big family. Her upbringing was indeed good. The only young man in his 20s among the 4 had also tried to please her a few times, but how could Beauty be interested in such a weak adventurer? Her attitude towards him was just normal, and she didn't show any affection. The other 3 saw that Wei Wei and the other man were trying to curry favor with Mei Luo, but they didn't say anything. It was good if they could curry favor with her, and there was nothing to lose anyway. Under the escort of Wei Wei's team of 5, Mei Luo finally descended the mountain that had trapped her for several days. She asked for a few rooms at the small inn at the foot of the mountain to make some adjustments. Early the next morning, Mei Luo came down from the second-floor room alone and paid the bill at the front desk. I remember that the 6 of you came together yesterday. Why don't I see anyone else? The innkeeper counted the money and chatted casually. Mei Luo's eyes narrowed, and then she said, "They had something to do and left in the middle of the night. They even asked me to pay for their accommodation." So urgent. The innkeeper was a bit surprised, but he didn't think much of it. Mei Luo nodded and didn't say anything else. The innkeeper could tell that Mei Luo wasn't in the mood to chat, so he didn't say anything else. After leaving the inn, Mei Luo welcomed the warm sunlight with a brilliant smile on her face. If one paid attention, they would definitely notice that her strength had improved quite a bit overnight. Becoming a demon isn't that bad. At least I have a way to gain strength faster. Whether it's Prince Ming Shi or that Feng Wu, you two must wait for me. When I'm stronger, I'll definitely find you two to take revenge for not saving me in the Blue Moon world. Just you wait, just you wait. After muttering these words in a low voice, Mei Luo walked forward and left the small town without looking back. Feng Wu and Ming Shi had no idea that they were being targeted. They didn't remember who that Mei Luo was. Unknowingly, 10 days had passed. Feng Wu and Ming Shi finally returned to school on the 10th day. In Notre Dame du Starlight, Hua Jin was still doing well in school. More and more people were sucking up to her, but she was not very happy recently. This was because the person she wanted to deal with had disappeared from school, and Ming Shi had disappeared at the same time. This discovery almost drove Hua Jin crazy. She imagined many scenes of the two skipping school and going to other places to have fun together. Until some time ago, she received news from her family that Ming Shi had gone to Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom with Feng Wu and that Ming Shi was seriously injured. At that time, she wanted to return home immediately, but her father and mother did not approve of it. They kept assuring her that Ming Shi was fine and that Moon Emperor would send someone to treat his injuries soon. What she needed to do now was not to come back and do useless things. Instead, she needed to set up a good plan in school. This way, when Feng Wu returned, she could strike the nail on the head. She wanted her to never appear in front of Ming Shi again and make Ming Shi completely give up on Feng Wu. Hua Jin had already come up with many evil ideas to make Feng Wu lose the face to stay by Ming Shi's side. She could also make Ming Shi hate that woman completely. Little Bun Feng Yi was not happy recently. A few days ago, the little Bun felt that something seemed to have happened to his little mother, and it was a very serious matter. The little Bun was very worried, but later on, the palpitations in his heart disappeared. For some reason, he knew that his little mother was fine. Bao Bao followed little Bun Feng Yi around and had been hanging out with the vice-director recently. As little Bun Feng Yi could walk very steadily, the little thing's range of activity had finally increased greatly. Sometimes, when the vice-director was not paying attention, little Bun Feng Yi would run to other teaching areas, making it difficult for him to find him. Fortunately, little steamed Bun Xiao Yi was a very obvious target. Any student who had seen him before would be able to point him out. Thus, it didn't take much effort for the vice principal to find little steamed Bun Xiao Yi. Most of the time, the vice principal would send a trustworthy senior student to find little steamed Bun Xiao Yi. Chapter 580. Xiao Yi lived a very comfortable life in the vice principal's house. The vice principal doted on him a lot, and the seniors were his nanny. The food he ate was also nutritious and delicious by the chef on the third floor of the cafeteria. Although life was good, Xiao Yi was still a little unhappy because his mother had left for almost half a month. Little Bun was still very attached to his irresponsible mother who often went missing. "Xiao Yi, you're running around again." The 7th grade student, Teresa, walked behind Xiao Yi with a helpless expression and picked him up. Xiao Yi had been eating and sleeping well since he was young, so he was quite heavy. The white and tender little Bun was very chubby and could melt anyone's heart. Xiao Yi knew that it was his nanny, Teresa, who picked him up, so he didn't resist and let her pick him up. In this school, as long as there was nothing wrong with them, they would all be Xiao Ye's nanny or nanny. Xiao Yi was very familiar with these uncles and aunties, so he wouldn't mistake them for anyone. "When the vice principal found out that you were missing, a few of us came out to look for you. You're the only kid in the school who has such a big face." Teresa scratched the little guy's little nose and smiled helplessly. "Go out and play, Xiao Yi wants to go out and play." Xiao Ye's soft voice was so cute. Teresa couldn't help but secretly kiss Xiao Ye's little face. This kid was too cute. She really didn't know how Feng Wu gave birth to such a cute little thing. "Alright, since I don't have anything to do today, let's go shopping together." How could Teresa reject the cute Xiao Ye's request? She hugged Xiao Yi and thought for 2 seconds before saying, "Okay, Auntie Teresa is so nice." Little Bun's cute voice was heard. "Auntie." Teresa felt like she was hurt 10,000 times. She was only in her early 20s. How could she be an auntie? "Baby Xiao Yi, let's make a deal. Can you still be big sister Teresa in the future?" Teresa contacted the vice principal and told him that she wanted to take Xiao Yi out to play. Then she took Xiao Yi with her as they walked. Xiao Yi shook his head and blinked his big eyes. His voice was soft and cute. "No, Mom said that I can't be an impolite kid." "Auntie, you're obviously older than my mom. If I call you big sister, people will say that I'm pretending to be young." Teresa felt an arrow in her heart. If she wasn't hugging Xiao Yi, she would have fallen to the ground and vomited blood. She actually said that she was pretending to be young. She was clearly only in her 20s. How could she be pretending to be young? Teresa screamed in her heart. "But I'm only in my early 20s. If you call me auntie, people will think that I'm old," Teresa said pitifully. He didn't know how Feng Wu had taught this little guy. At such a young age, he could make people choke with his words. Moreover, he wasn't easy to fool. "Auntie Teresa, you're 20 years older than Xiao Yi. How can you still be the older sister? If Auntie was like Mommy and had a child at 14, the child would be old enough to buy soy sauce now." Xiao Yi wasn't affected by Teresa's pitiful look at all. He smiled like an angel and said something that made her fall to the ground. "Teresa, you're right. I'm speechless." Teresa couldn't change Xiao Ye's mind. She shut her mouth to avoid being angered to death. Teresa carried Xiao Yi all the way from high school to low school. Along the way, Xiao Yi received countless delicious snacks. His pink face was kissed and touched by countless boys and girls. "Xiao Yi, why didn't you come to our class to play today?" This was what a 4th grade girl said when she saw Xiao Yi. "Xiao Yi, this is the food that I brought for you. Take it home and eat it slowly. If you like it, tell me and I'll bring more for you next time. Another girl ran over to greet Xiao Yi and even stuffed a bag of delicious snacks into Xiao Ye's hands. Of course, Xiao Yi couldn't take it. This bag of snacks was quite heavy. Xiao Bai decisively took the bag and put it into his space. Xiao Yi, do you want to play with your brother? Xiao Yi, do you want to go to the student cafeteria to eat? They have your favorite cream of mushroom soup today. Cream of mushroom soup. Xiao Ye's eyes lit up. Xiao Yi liked this dish very much. The cafeteria would make this dish every few days because Xiao Yi loved it. Xiao Yi didn't know if it was because Xiao Yi was the elf king in his previous life. Although Xiao Yi didn't awaken his memory in this life, he still preferred to eat vegetarian food. Although he didn't hate meat, he didn't like it that much either. She was the complete opposite of Feng Wu, who couldn't be happier without meat. Thank you, uncle. I can't go with you today. Maybe another day. I've already asked Sister Teresa to play outside. We'll eat outside later. Xiao Yi thought about it and still didn't want to give up. Because his mother wasn't around, there was no one to take him out. Xiao Yi had been cooped up in the school for almost half a month. He had almost finished touring the entire school. Xiao Yi was just a little bun, but he still talked like an adult. He was so cute that it melted the hearts of young girls. Wow. So cute. How can he be so cute? I want to bring Xiao Yi home. If I can have a child as cute as Xiao Yi in the future, I'll be satisfied. If you don't call me uncle, I'll like your Xiao Yi more. The last one to speak was the boy who invited Xiao Yi. Seeing the boy's helpless expression, Teresa felt much better. Sure enough, when she saw someone who was tricked like her, she felt that she wasn't the unluckiest person. It was just like how she would feel better when she saw someone who was more unfortunate than her. After saying goodbye to the bunch of young boys and girls who gave her candy and snacks, Teresa and Xiao Yi finally left the school gate. The old man at the gate even gave Xiao Yi a big fruit for him to eat. As for Teresa, probably because she wasn't cute enough, the old man didn't look at her differently. For the first time, Teresa felt that she wasn't attractive at all. The bunch of juniors didn't pay much attention to her. Their attention was all on the little bun in her arms. It wasn't that she wasn't attractive. It was just that the little brat was too eye-catching. That must be it. Thinking of this, Teresa's hurt heart felt much better. Teresa carried Xiao Yi to the street to watch the children play. She also brought him to eat some delicious food that babies could eat. Xiao Yi ate until his stomach was round and round. Only then was Xiao Yi satisfied and agreed to return to the academy. Chapter 581. It wasn't because she wasn't attractive, but because this little brat was too eye-catching. That must be it. Thinking of this, Teresa's hurt heart felt a lot better. Teresa carried Xiao Yi to the streets to watch the children play. She also brought him to eat some delicious food that babies could eat. Xiao Yi ate until his stomach was round and round. Only then was Xiao Yi satisfied and agreed to return to the academy. Xiao Yi, aren't you afraid of getting sick from eating so much? To be honest, Teresa was worried that this little guy's stomach would get sick from eating too much. If Xiao Yi got sick from eating too much, the vice president would definitely not forgive her. Thinking of the consequences of being targeted by the vice president, Teresa regretted being so careless just now. She shouldn't have been conquered by this little rascal's smile and let him eat so much. Mommy doesn't bring Xiao Yi out to play. I can only use food to make up for my hurt heart when I can't see Mommy. Little Bun mimicked Feng Wu's expressionless face and said seriously. Teresa's mouth twitched a few times. When did your heart get hurt? You've been putting on a show with the vice president looking for her every day. You've almost finished the entire academy and even hooked up with so many classmates. The snacks they gave you are enough to last you for a few years. You're living such a leisurely life and your heart is still hurt? Speaking of which, who taught Xiao Yi these things? How could he say such things in front of a child? It's easy to lead the child astray. Teresa, who was carrying Xiao Yi back to school, was determined to find that guy and give him a good warning. Let's see if he still dares to say such things. Just as Teresa was walking back to school, the ground suddenly shook and the entire city began to shake. What's going on? Is it an earthquake? It's too scary. Why is it shaking so hard all of a sudden? My child, my child. Be careful not to step on my child. Mom. Where are you? Mom. Don't touch my stall. I just made some pancakes. My fruits, don't step on my fruits. The surroundings were in a mess. Fortunately, the quality of the houses in the central city was good and there weren't any large-scale collapses. Everyone, look. Seawater. The seawater is coming. A terrified scream suddenly sounded. Teresa turned around abruptly. Not far away, there was a huge wave that was tens of meters tall rushing towards the city center. This wave came so suddenly and with such ferocity, it was definitely not normal. All Year 6 and 7 water mages fly into the sky and stop the giant wave. A stern voice suddenly sounded. It was the dean's voice. What should he do next? Teresa was helpless. She was also a water mage, so she obeyed the order to stop the wave. This was a test that the school had given to the students. She had to go, but what about Xiao Yi? This little guy was too small. She couldn't possibly carry him along. Xiao Yi yawned. His eyes were wet and he looked extremely adorable. While Teresa was hesitating, figures with blue water magic aura shot into the sky from the Notre Dame du starlight. The blue light was very eye-catching. So many people had already gone to stop the giant wave. She couldn't delay any longer. She apologized to Xiao Yi and asked him to wait for her to come back. Then, she handed the little guy over to a kind old lady. The old lady knew that she was a senior at the Notre Dame du starlight, so she agreed to take care of the little guy for now. Now that Xiao Yi was taken care of, Teresa didn't dare to delay any longer. She turned into a blue light and rushed towards the giant wave. The wave was huge and powerful. There were about 200 to 300 water mages in the 2 grades. It was impossible for any one of them to stop the wave. They had to work together to stop it. Everyone used water magic to control the wave. The wave seemed to have a strong magic power. Although there were about 300 people casting spells together, they were all covered in cold sweat. Their faces were extremely pale, and their hands holding their wands were shaking. What was under the water? Why was there such a strong force? It could even stop the combined attack of 300 of them. Everyone, we can't lose. A powerful water mage in the 7th grade shouted. Yes, they couldn't lose. This was a test arranged by the dean himself. If they lost, they wouldn't be able to face the dean anymore. The students were determined. They didn't want to lose. If they lost, not only would they not be able to face the dean, they wouldn't be able to raise their heads in school anymore. They would definitely be ridiculed by the students of the other elements. Thinking of that, all the water mages immediately increased their output. They even used their trump cards, and finally managed to push the huge wave back a little, preventing it from advancing any further. The 2 sides were in a stalemate. The people watching from afar were all guessing if the water mages could succeed. If they can't stop the wave, then we'll go. Those water mages are really useless. They can't even stop a single wave. Forget it. Why would a fire mage like you want to join in the fun? If anyone is going, it should be us metal mages. Our metal element is the strongest among the 5 elements. Don't forget about us earth mages. It's time for us earth mages to go. Once we set up an earth wall, it doesn't matter if it's a wave or not. We'll definitely stop it. You're all exaggerating. I don't believe that you haven't noticed that this wave is a little unusual. There might be something incredible under the water. What? There's really something under the water? I think so. If it's just a normal wave, then the dean wouldn't send out all the water mages in the 5th and 6th grades. There must be something special about this wave. I wonder what's under the water. Anyway, those water mages are in trouble. This was the discussion of the students in the 5th and 6th grades at the Notre Dame du starlight. At the same time, in the central city, Many ordinary adventurers and civilians were watching the wave with worried expressions. Can those students do it? We won't drown in the wave, right? What's there to be afraid of? If they can't do it, there's still someone else. There are so many formidable factions in the central city. What could possibly happen? You're right. Among the people who were focused on the battle between the water mages and the wave, no one noticed a kind-looking old woman lying on the ground somewhere in the city. Her head was bleeding as she murmured the words of a child. Unfortunately, everyone was too focused on whether the wave could be stopped. No one noticed the old woman lying in a pool of blood. Chapter 582. With the combined efforts of all the students, they finally managed to push back the giant wave. Teresa excitedly high-fived a few of her close friends. Remembering that Xiao Yi was still with someone else, she immediately flew back to the central city to find the old lady. Me. But before she could get close to the old lady, she heard a panicked scream. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Is there a wood, water, or light magician? Or a pharmacist? There's an old lady who needs treatment. What happened? There seems to be an old lady who is seriously injured. She's bleeding a lot. I don't know who did this to her. Who dares to kill someone in Central City? Who's so brave? Yeah, I've lived here for so many years, but I've never seen anyone so brave. Didn't anyone see who did this? There are so many people on the street. Someone should have noticed, right? Under normal circumstances, someone would have noticed long ago. But this isn't normal. There was such a huge wave just now. Everyone was focused on the waves in the distance. Who would have noticed anything else? That's why there aren't any witnesses. Then the culprit is quite lucky. If someone found out, he would be dead for sure. Now, we can only hope that the old lady saw who injured her. When the time comes, the Central City's law enforcement team will definitely seek justice for the old lady. I don't know who did it, but I know this old lady. She sells sugar cookies around here every day. The old lady's sugar cookies taste very good, and I'm a regular customer at her small food stall. That old lady has always been a good person, and I've never heard of her having such a big grudge against anyone. Who hurt the old lady? Was it someone seeking money? But how much money can a small sugar cookie stall make? This is too strange. Hearing the discussions around her, Teresa suddenly had a bad feeling. It can't be, right? She pushed through the crowd and ran to the place where the old lady fell. She saw a big pool of blood on the ground. The old lady's breathing was weak and her heart could stop at any time. Teresa's heart skipped a beat. She immediately poured a bottle of recovery potion and a bottle of healing potion into the old lady's mouth. After drinking 2 bottles of medicine, the old lady, who was originally on the verge of death, finally recovered her normal heartbeat. Her pale face also returned to normal, and some redness returned to her face. This old lady has met a good person. The value of these 2 bottles of medicine is not low. That's right. This lady is so nice. She pushed us away in such a hurry just now because she wanted to save someone. I even scolded her just now. Now I feel embarrassed. That lady, I'm sorry just now. I apologize to you. I apologize too. But if you had said so earlier, we would have made way for you. We wouldn't have needed you to push us. You can't say that. He's just anxious. Look, wake up. This medicine is effective, but it's too expensive. We ordinary people can't afford it. Someone sighed with envy. In the eyes of ordinary people, being able to own a bottle of potion was a very amazing thing. The value of a bottle of potion was too high. Many ordinary families would have to spend several years of their savings just to buy a bottle of potion. Therefore, in the world of ordinary people, potions were very rare. She's really awake. The old lady is awake. Teresa didn't care what others said. She immediately helped the old lady, who was slowly waking up a little. The old lady opened her eyes and saw Teresa's anxious eyes. Thinking of what happened, the old lady didn't have time to speak before her eyes started to bleed non-stop. The child, Someone stole the child. The child was stolen. The old lady had been kind all her life. Now that a good child was stolen from her hands, she felt extremely guilty. Who did it? Teresa's hand by her side clenched into a fist. Who dared to have designs on Xiao Yi? No matter who it was, she, Teresa, would make that person regret being born into this world. I don't know. I was holding the child and standing here waiting for you to come back. Then I suddenly felt very dizzy and my head became very heavy. I felt that someone was holding the child from my hands. When I wanted to stop them in a daze, I felt that I was pushed. Then my head hit something and I don't know what happened after that. The old lady recalled what happened and said regretfully, "It's not your fault. It might be a magician. You don't have to feel guilty about this. Speaking of which, it's my fault that you were implicated because I left the child with you. Take this money and buy some good food to nourish your body." Although the old lady's injuries were healed by Teresa, she did lose a lot of blood. She still needed to eat something good to nourish her body. Thinking that the old lady suffered because she helped her take care of the child, Teresa took out a bag of money. There were about 50 gold coins in the bag. Although it wasn't a lot, it was a huge sum of money for an ordinary person who didn't have any cultivation. The old lady blamed herself for losing the child and refused to take the money. Seeing that the old lady was so insistent, Teresa couldn't force her to take the money and had to give up. Because she was in a hurry to find the child, Teresa didn't stay long. When she said goodbye to the old lady, she promised to let her know when she found the child. Then she hurried back to the school to tell the vice principal about this. Notre Dame du Starlight, the vice principal's office. What did you say? Xiao Yi is missing? What do you mean he's missing? He ran away by himself. How old are you? How could you let a child less than 2 years old run away from your hands? You can't even look after a child. Blah blah blah. The vice principal was so angry that his beard was blowing and his eyes were glaring. Teresa wanted to say something, but she didn't even have the chance to. After being scolded by the vice principal for 5 minutes, Teresa finally couldn't stand it anymore. She found a chance to interrupt and told the vice principal about how Xiao Yi was taken away. Xiao Yi didn't get lost by himself. He was taken away by someone. Vice principal, please think of a way. We don't know what that person wants to do with Xiao Yi. If something happens to Xiao Yi, how are we going to explain it to Junior Fengwu when she comes back? Teresa finished her words with a sad face. The vice principal was shocked. He didn't expect that someone would dare to take Feng Yi. Who was Feng Yi? He was the Elf King. If the person who took Feng Yi dared to take the Elf King, how daring must the person be to do this? Chapter 583. Teresa finished her sentence with a worried expression. The vice principal was shocked. He didn't think that someone would dare to kidnap Feng Yi. Who was Feng Yi? He was the Elf King. If they dared to kidnap the Elf King, how daring must the person who kidnapped Feng Yi be? He was kidnapped. Someone actually dared to kidnap Feng Yi. Their courage is commendable. The vice principal couldn't help but stroke his beard as he praised. Teresa felt as if there were words appearing on her forehead. Xiao Yi was missing and the vice principal who doted on Xiao Yi the most was actually praising the bad guy who kidnapped Xiao Yi. Vice principal, now that Xiao Yi is missing, what should we do? Hurry up and think of a way. What if something happens to Xiao Yi? Teresa couldn't help but shout at the vice principal. If it was any other time, she definitely wouldn't have the guts to shout at the vice principal. But now that Xiao Yi was missing and the vice principal was so unreliable, Teresa couldn't take it anymore. However, the vice principal waved his hand without any worry. Don't worry, nothing will happen to that kid. Go back to the dorm and wait for news. That kid will be back soon. The vice principal said confidently. That was the Elf King. Even if something happened to everyone in Heavenly Wind, he would still be alive and well. Back then, the Elf King had no choice but to be reborn to save this world. The world's consciousness was indebted to the Elf King and would definitely protect Feng Yi after the Elf King's rebirth. Teresa was unwillingly chased out of the vice principal's office. However, she couldn't be as magnanimous as the vice principal. Feng Yi was lost in her hands and she was told to go back and wait for news. How could that be possible? She would definitely find Feng Yi. She definitely would. Teresa's face was filled with determination. She returned to the 7th grade and gathered some of the students who took care of Feng Yi to search for him. Because of Teresa's actions, in less than half a day, most of the students in the school already knew about Feng Yi's disappearance. This included Ajur, Mo Gue, and Elena. Feng Yi's disappearance was a huge matter. Elena wanted to contact Ming Shi immediately, but there was no news from Ming Shi. Ajur and Mo Gue already knew that Ming Shi had rescued Feng Wu from Duke Blue Moon. Feng Wu and Ming Shi were still recuperating in the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom. They must have suffered heavy injuries. It wasn't a good idea to tell them about this and worry them. With this in mind, Ajur and Mo Gue didn't contact Feng Wu. Instead, the two of them organized some students who were willing to help to look for Feng Yi. In less than half a day, most of the students in the school were involved in the search for Feng Yi. A small number of students who didn't have any interactions with Feng Yi didn't care. They just expressed their concern and stopped paying attention. There were also some students who disliked Feng Wu who gloated. Among them, Eve's reaction was the most obvious. She didn't know that many boys didn't like her. Although they didn't say it, they still liked cute and kind girls. It was fine if you didn't care about Feng Yi's disappearance. After all, he wasn't your child and didn't have anything to do with you. However, it was too much to gloat like this. How vicious must you be to not even be able to tolerate a child? Eve didn't know that many students chose to keep a distance from her because of her unconcealed feelings. She was still immersed in the joy of Feng Yi's disappearance. In short, she was happy as long as Feng Wu was sad. Although Rika also hoped that Feng Wu would be unhappy, the more unlucky she was, the better. However, she wasn't perverted to the point where she wouldn't even let a child go. Feng Yi had stayed in their dorm for almost 2 years. Rika had watched the child grow up, from when she was still a baby to now when she could run and walk. Although Rika had never hugged Feng Yi and had often cursed Feng Yi as a bastard, she actually didn't hate that child in her heart. As long as one wasn't perverted, who could bear to hate a beautiful and cute child like Xiao Yi? I heard that Xiao Yi is missing. What should we do? Xiao Wu isn't here. If Xiao Wu doesn't see Xiao Yi when she comes back, how sad will she be? Anika said worriedly. Everyone in the dorm had watched Xiao Yi grow up. When Feng Wu wasn't free, Anika had often been a free nanny. We can't just watch. When the sun rises tomorrow, let's go out and help look for Xiao Yi, Silda stood up and announced with a serious expression. Anika immediately nodded in agreement. It was already too late. Even if they went out to look for Xiao Yi, they wouldn't be able to find anything. They could only wait until tomorrow. How do you plan to look for him? Rika asked calmly as she drank the fruit juice she had just poured. No matter what method we use, even if we have to flip Central City upside down, we will definitely find Xiao Yi, Silda said with a resolute expression. That's right, Anika agreed. How long will it take for you to search aimlessly like this? Rika frowned. How we search has nothing to do with you. Stop gloating over our misfortune, Silda said unhappily. I'm gloating over your misfortune. Rika pointed at herself with her eyes wide open. Isn't that so? Who doesn't know that you can't wait for something bad to happen to Xiao Wu? Now that Xiao Wu is in trouble, Xiao Yi must be very sad. Won't you be overjoyed to see Xiao Wu sad? Silda rolled his eyes with an expression that said he had seen through her. I don't care if you believe me or not. Although I hate Feng Wu, I don't hate a little kid. If you want to look for Xiao Yi, you can't just search aimlessly like this. It's a waste of time and effort, and it won't be very effective. Why don't you go to the area where Xiao Yi went missing and see if anyone saw who took Xiao Yi away? With a target, it'll be much easier to find him. That's all I have to say. It's up to you whether you want to listen or not. Rika finished speaking and went upstairs with the fruit juice. After Rika left, Silda turned to look at Rika and said, "Would she be so kind?" Anika smiled. "Rika isn't as bad as you think. Although she doesn't say anything nice, she doesn't mean any harm to Xiao Yi. Who knows what she's up to?" Silda still didn't think that Rika would suddenly have a conscience. It doesn't matter if Rika really wants to help find Xiao Yi. What she said makes a lot of sense. Instead of searching blindly, why don't we look around and see if we can find any clues about the person who took Xiao Yi away? Anika said. "That's the only way. If she's sincere, at least she's not that bad," Silda said reluctantly. Chapter 584. Regardless of whether Zilda agreed or not, he had to admit that Rika's idea was rather reliable. Clearly, Rika was not the only one who thought of this. The other students had also thought of this. Many smart people gathered people nearby and asked if they had seen the person who had attacked the old lady and snatched Xiao Yi away. Unfortunately, no one could provide any useful clues even after asking so many people. It was only in the afternoon when they asked a young beggar who said that he had seen someone attack the old lady. However, that person was wearing a white cloak, so they could not see the person's face clearly. They could only tell that it was a woman based on the person's figure. Only knowing the gender was of little help in finding Xiao Yi. While everyone was trying their best to find out about Xiao Ye's whereabouts, where was he at this moment? In a room of a certain house in the central city, a beautiful woman was hugging Xiao Yi. She had a creepy smile on her face. "This child is Fengwu's little b*** road. Now that we have the child, shouldn't we move on to the next step?" Hua Jin looked at Xiao Yi with disdain. "What's the hurry? With this little thing in our hands, do we have to be afraid that Fengwu won't fall into our trap?" The woman's smile seemed to have a deeper meaning. "Mei Luo, don't forget what you promised me." Hua Jin frowned and said worriedly. A few days ago, this girl called Mei Luo had come to look for her to discuss how to deal with Fengwu together. Mei Luo had even suggested many ideas for her to consider. As the saying went, the enemy of an enemy was a friend. Although she did not know why Mei Luo hated Fengwu so much, Hua Jin did not care about it. As long as Mei Luo could really help her, nothing else mattered. They easily reached a cooperative relationship. Initially, they wanted to find an opportunity to get their hands on Fengwu's child. When the time came, Fengwu would hesitate to attack the rat for fear of breaking the vase. It would be easy for them to deal with her. She thought that it would be easy to catch a child, but she didn't expect that Fengwu's son would somehow catch the vice principal's eye, making the vice principal dote on him and protect him. It was an impossible mission to kidnap the kid in school. Just when they thought they wouldn't have a chance to do it, Teresa took the kid out of school and encountered a huge wave. Because of the huge wave, they finally found a chance to take the kid away. The person who took the child away was Hua Jin's maid. Due to the Notre Dame du Starlight's rules, students were not allowed to bring servants into the school to serve them. Hence, Hua Jin's maid was arranged to stay in a room outside. Outside Notre Dame du Starlight, Hua Jin had bought a beautiful 2-story bungalow. The house was very beautiful and had a good location. When he had nothing to do, he would stay there. After the maid took the child away yesterday, the child had been placed in the room outside Hua Jin's room. It was not a solution for the child to stay in Central City. Sooner or later, the Notre Dame du Starlight's people would track him down. For safety's sake, it was better to move him. In order to move the child, Hua Jin invited Mei Luo over. At the same time, there was also a perverted man who had an agreement with Hua Jin. "Don't worry, I won't forget. I heard that Prince Ming she likes Fengwu a lot. For Fengwu, he even chased after her to the Blue Moon realm. Are you sure that after getting rid of Fengwu, you'll still be in Prince Ming she's heart?" Mei Luo placed Xiao Yi on the crib and pursed her lips into a faint smile. "What do you know? That woman is a vixen. If it weren't for her, given the fact that Brother Ming Shi and I grew up together, there would be no reason for Brother Ming Shi not to choose me," Hua Jin said with a sinister expression. The thought of Fengwu made her gnash her teeth in hatred. Since she was young, her wish had been to become the next Moon Empress. She wanted to be like her auntie, standing high and mighty and receiving the worship of all the women in the world. However, Feng Wu's appearance ruined everything. Her dream, her hope. She would never let a disreputable woman like Feng Wu destroy everything she dreamed of. If anyone tried to stop her, then she would destroy her. Is that so? Mei Luo was non-committal. After returning to the Adventurers Association, Mei Luo explained to her grandfather how she escaped from the Blue Moon realm. She hid the fact that she had become a demonic person and told him that she had entered the Blue Moon realm to save Feng Wu. In her explanation, the reason she escaped from the Blue Moon realm was that the Duke of Blue Moon was not interested in her. After Feng Wu left, he threw her out of the Blue Moon realm. There was nothing wrong with Mei Luo's explanation. Although it was strange that the Duke of Blue Moon had let her off so easily, no one would want to get to the bottom of the matter since their child was back. After resting at home for a few days, she used the excuse that she wanted to go out to relax and came to Central City. She used some of her grandfather's power to investigate Feng Wu's childhood. After seeing Feng Wu's childhood, Mei Luo became more and more disdainful of Feng Wu. She also resented her more and more. Mei Luo could not understand why an unmarried woman like Feng Wu could obtain the love of the future emperor of the Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom. He even risked his own life to save her in the Blue Moon realm. She was clearly countless times more outstanding than Feng Wu. Why did no one come to save her? This was not fair, not fair. There was also that Prince Ming Shi. He could have saved her with a single sentence, so why hadn't he been willing to speak up for her? Instead, he had watched her wait for death in the Blue Moon realm. Ming Shi wasn't a good person either. If it were not for the two of them, she would not have become a demonic human. She could no longer be considered a human and had become an extremely rare demonic human. The power of the human demon was not that strong among all demons, but she had an ability that other demons did not have. She could freely change the aura on her body. Unless she was willing to show her demon side in front of others, no one would be able to see the fact that she was no longer a complete human. You two should stop talking. What we should do now is to find a way to get this little thing out of the city as soon as possible. Letting it stay in Central City is a very dangerous matter. The tan-haired man who had been silent all this time finally spoke. A trace of impatience flashed across the man's eyes. He was not the least bit interested in the feelings of these two women. He only wanted to get what he wanted as soon as possible. Feng Yi, do you have any good ideas? Hua Jin took a deep breath and suppressed his other thoughts. Right now, it was more important to find a way to move the little brat. Wait for tonight. I will arrange it. The tan-haired man calmly said. Then, I will wait for your good news. Hua Jin smiled in satisfaction. If Feng Yi said that he had a way, then there must be a way. Based on her understanding of Feng Yi, as long as he wanted to do something, there was nothing he could not do. This was because this man was unscrupulous in everything he did, so he rarely failed. Chapter 585. Hua Jin smiled in satisfaction. If Feng Yi said that there was a way, then there was definitely a way. Based on her understanding of Feng Yi, as long as he wanted to do something, there was nothing he couldn't do. This was because this man was unscrupulous in everything he did, so he rarely failed. Feng Yi, the third prince of the Wind Country, was the strongest among all the princes, but also the most abnormal. His father was the current Wind Emperor, and his mother was the Wind Empress. The Wind Empress's family was very powerful, and it was impossible for a certain someone to defeat all the noble ladies in the Wind Country to ascend to the throne. The Wind Emperor had two princes. The first and third princes were born of the Wind Emperor, while the other 5 princes were born of the 4 wives of the Wind Emperor. The eldest prince and the third prince, Feng Yi, were the princes most likely to ascend the throne in the future. Hua Jin knew that Feng Yi would not be willing to let his brother become the Wind Emperor. They were both the legitimate sons of the Wind Emperor. If he lost to his brother just because of seniority, Feng Yi would not be willing to accept it. It was because of this that he was anxious to develop his underground power, and even made this deal with her to obtain that thing. After the 3 fellows colluding with each other discussed the matter of moving little Baozi, they left separately. Little Yi and little Bowsy were locked in a room alone. He sat obediently on the small bed, not crying or making a fuss. When a maid came to feed him, he would obediently open his mouth, but he didn't call out to anyone and didn't like to talk. After everyone left, little Bowsy rubbed his chin like a little adult. Are these bad people trying to use me to lure mommy out? They are indeed bad people, even daring to kidnap little Yi. How should I teach them a lesson? Little Bowsy thought bitterly, but he couldn't think of a satisfactory solution. Xiao Bai. Little Yi called out Xiao Bai's name softly. At this time, a white creature appeared in the originally empty room. Who else could it be but Xiao Bai? Speaking of which, the situation yesterday was like this. When Hua Jin's maid wanted to take little Bowsy away, Xiao Bai immediately wanted to attack. Although Xiao Bai's fighting power wasn't great, very few people could break through the barrier set up by the Holy Mother Beast. As long as Little Bun and Little White were together, they would never be kidnapped. However, Little Bun was curious about what this strange person wanted to do. He transmitted his voice to Little White, telling him not to make a move. Thus, our little Bun Feng Yi was successfully kidnapped. The person who kidnapped him didn't know that the kidnapping went so smoothly because of Little Bun's cooperation. They thought that it was because they were lucky, but that was also true. After all, who would think that a little Bun that was not even 2 years old already had such ideas? Little Master, have you finally thought it through and decided to go back with Little White? Little White transmitted its voice to Little Bun expectantly. Of course not, I want to stay here and see what they want to do. Little Bun shook his head seriously and said in his soft and cute voice. These bad guys wanted to do bad things to his mother. As a righteous Bun, he had to protect his mother and get rid of the bad guys. But Little Master, if you don't go back now, Master will be worried. Little White knew that the person Little Bun liked the most was Feng Wu. In order to prevent this playful Little Bun from seeking death outside, Little White could only bring up Feng Wu. Don't be scared, don't be scared. When I catch these bad guys, Mommy will praise me. Little Bun said in his childish voice. Alright, he had no choice. He couldn't stop his little master from seeking death. Master, come back quickly. Little White can't protect you anymore. Little White can't understand Little Master's thoughts. Little White, don't you think that bad person called Mei Luo is a bit strange? She has a rotten smell on her body. It smells so bad. She stinks. When Feng Yi mentioned Mei Luo, his small brows furrowed. Mei Luo gave Little Yi a very bad feeling. Those 3 people clearly weren't good people, so why did he especially hate the one called Mei Luo? Feng Yi couldn't understand. He didn't know that this was his innate talent as an elf. Elves were all pure and kind. As the Elf King, Feng Yi could not only clearly feel the good and evil in people's hearts, he could even feel the deeply hidden demonic aura. If the Vice Principal was here, he would definitely understand what was going on. It was a pity that Feng Ye's memories from his previous life hadn't awakened. Although he had awakened some of his instincts, there were many things that he didn't understand. The current Feng Yi was still too young. His body couldn't withstand too much power. In the future, all of the Elf King's power would slowly be unsealed in his body. Little White didn't have Feng Ye's ability. It was already difficult for him to hide carefully without being discovered. How could he notice anything else? Thus, Little White shook his head honestly, indicating that he didn't notice anything. You didn't smell it? How is that possible? It's clearly so stinky. Little Bun didn't believe him. Little White shook his head firmly, indicating that he wasn't lying. After Little White repeatedly assured him, Little Bun finally believed him and didn't think too much about it. Little Master, there are many people outside looking for you. I saw Ajur and Mo Gue pass by this street several times. Little White impatiently transmitted his voice. If it wasn't for Little Master stopping him, he would have rushed out to inform Ajur and the others to save Little Master. It's fine. I'll write a letter. Help me pass it to Uncle Ajur and the others. Tell them not to look for me. I'll definitely be fine. Little Bun Feng Yi said with certainty, his voice soft and sweet. That night, after Ajur returned to the dormitory, he found a note in his room. The following was written on the note in crooked handwriting: Uncle Ajur, you don't have to look for me. I'll come back after defeating the bad guys. Little Yi left a message. Ajur spent a long time to recognize these words. Little Yi was a very smart child. He could recognize many words at such a young age, but just because he could recognize them, it didn't mean that he could write them. With such a small hand, it's already amazing that he can hold the brush properly. If you expect him to write well, then you're thinking too much. Little Yi, when you come back, I'll definitely spank your little butt. Ajur was so angry that he tore up the paper and threw it on the ground angrily. Then, he thought about it and immediately picked up the paper. Taking it with him, he aggressively went to find the vice principal. Their school's vice principal had always been elusive. Most of the school's matters were decided by the vice principal. For example, they naturally reported little Ye's disappearance to the vice principal. The vice principal had just finished his dinner and was about to return to the study to read 18 forbidden novels while eating melon seeds. Unexpectedly, before he could take out the books, someone came knocking on the door. Chapter 586. Their school's biggest dean was always elusive. Usually, the vice dean was in charge of the school's affairs. Naturally, they would report Xiao Ye's disappearance to the vice dean. The vice dean had just finished his dinner and was about to return to his study to read 18 forbidden novels while eating melon seeds. Unexpectedly, before he could take out his book, someone came knocking on the door. The vice dean scratched his beard in annoyance and walked to the door to open it. Outside, he saw Ajur standing at the door with a very bad expression. The vice dean was bewildered. The school has already ended. Even if I am the vice dean, I still have private time to rest. Student Ajur, your behavior without consideration for others is unacceptable. As the vice dean, I must criticize you. The vice dean said angrily. Ajur passed the note that he suspected was written by Xiao Yi to the vice dean in annoyance. The vice dean looked at it and quickly read it. At first, he did not say a word, but then he glared at Ajur. You came looking for me in such a hurry just for this note? The vice president looked at Ajur, speechless. Unfortunately, Ajur's white hair and white beard made it impossible for others to see his expression. It wasn't easy for you to find a useful clue. Vice Dean, isn't your reaction a little too calm? Ajur said unhappily. He looked at the Vice Dean with a trace of suspicion and accusation. He had already noticed that the Vice Dean did not seem to be anxious about Xiao Ye's disappearance. This was not like the Vice Dean at all. The Vice Dean's attitude was so abnormal that Ajur was puzzled and puzzled. He felt that the Vice Dean was hiding something very important from the students. I already told you that nothing would happen to Xiao Yi. You just had to look for him with great fanfare. Isn't this asking for trouble? He had already advised these little fellows. Unfortunately, these little fellows did not listen at all. They even looked at his poor little heart with a look that said, "Why are you so cruel and heartless?" They really were a bunch of unlucky children who did not know how to respect their elders. Isn't all of this because you didn't make things clear? We don't know where Xiao Yi has been taken to, whether his life is in danger, and we don't know what that person's goal is. All you did was tell us not to worry, and you didn't do anything to help us find Xiao Yi. You didn't seem to care about him, and you didn't want us to not worry or look for him. How is that possible? If you want to reassure us, you have to tell us why you're so sure that nothing will happen to Xiao Yi. Ajur had long wanted to ask why the old man was so sure that Xiao Yi would be fine. He even said that Xiao Yi would come back on his own after he had enough fun. Come back on his own, my ass. If a child who was not even 2 years old could come back on his own, that would be a miracle. All right. Student Ajur, just do as Xiao Yi said in the letter. It's getting late, so I won't keep you any longer. You should go back to sleep. That's all. Good night, goodbye. Without waiting for Ajur's response, the door slammed shut with a bang, not leaving a single gap. Ajur cursed the stinky old man in his heart, and returned to the dormitory unwillingly. How was it? What did the vice president say? Ajur's roommates saw him enter and immediately surrounded him. The vice president told me to just do as Xiao Yi said in the letter, and not to worry about anything else. Ajur snorted through his nose. How can he do that? Xiao Yi said not to look for him, and he really didn't. He's not even 2 years old. And who knows if that note was left by Xiao Yi? Maybe someone deliberately left it here to confuse us. That's very possible. All right. Stop talking. Ajur raised his hand and gestured for them to stop, then said, I'm at least 90% sure that this note was written by Xiao Yi. Other than him, no one else could write such ugly handwriting. Rather than calling it handwriting, it was more like scribbles. If it were anyone else, it would be impossible for them to copy Xiao Ye's handwriting. This was also why Ajur was more certain that the note was written by Xiao Ye's handwriting. Haven't you guys thought of a question? Xiao Yi is just a baby. How did he put the note in Ajur's room? Mo Gue, who had been standing behind the others without speaking, suddenly spoke up. The moment he opened his mouth, he brought up an important question that no one could ignore. Yes, the note could have been written by Xiao Yi, but Xiao Yi was just a baby. Could he have put the note in by himself? Don't joke around. How could a baby do something like that? If he could, then he would be a divine infant. That's right. Xiao Yi couldn't have run back to school and put the note in Ajur's room by himself. It's impossible. How old is Xiao Yi? He's just a little kid. How could he put the note down and leave school without alerting anyone? No matter how you look at it, it's impossible for Xiao Yi to do something like that. Ajur's roommates began to discuss amongst themselves, but no one could come up with a more reliable answer. I've got it. Mo Gue suddenly said. His sudden outburst gave everyone a fright, especially Ajur. Earlier, Ajur had been wondering if he had overlooked something, but Mo Gue's sudden outburst scared him away. What did you think? Everyone turned to look at Mo Gue. Mo Gue immediately said, Did you forget about Xiao Bai and Bao Bao? With Xiao Bai and Bao Bao by Xiao Ye's side, Xiao Yi was still taken away. This is a very strange thing. I suspect that Xiao Yi deliberately followed those people and then sent Bao Bao or Xiao Bai to send a message to us. Mo Gue finished his conjecture proudly, but when he turned around, he found everyone staring at him with wide eyes. What are you looking at? Mo Gue took 2 steps back. These people's gazes were strange and a little scary. Nothing. I just suddenly realized that you can be so smart. It wasn't until Mo Gue brought it up that they realized something they had overlooked. Xiao Yi was accompanied by the Holy Mother and a talking magical beast of unknown species. With the protection of such a magical beast, Xiao Ye's disappearance was too unreasonable. There was a sense of strangeness in this. Bao Bao shouldn't be by Xiao Ye's side. That little guy appears and disappears all day, often disappearing without a trace. It's just like Xiao Wu's contract spirit, Liddy. Unless they want to, who knows where to find them? Chapter 587. Xiao Yi was accompanied by the Holy Mother and a talking magical beast of unknown species. With the protection of such a magical beast, Xiao Ye's disappearance was too unreasonable. There was a sense of strangeness in this. Bao Bao shouldn't be by Xiao Ye's side. That little guy appears and disappears all day long and often disappears without a trace. It's just like Xiao Wu's contract spirit, Liddy. Unless they're willing, who knows where to find them? Ajur shrugged. When it came to Feng Wu's contract spirit and beast that often ran out to play, he had a helpless look on his face. If they were his contracted spirit or contracted beast, he would definitely let them know what a qualified contracted spirit or contracted beast should look like. If they don't listen? Ha, if they don't listen, Ajur sneered. If they don't listen, I'll beat them until they listen. At this time, Liddy, who had run to a place full of yin qi to cultivate, suddenly felt a little cold. Liddy touched her neck. What's going on? Did she catch a cold? Strange. She already had a spirit body, why would she still feel cold? This wasn't scientific. Bao Bao was sleeping in a small nest in the spirit world, eating fresh fruits and looking at the beautiful scenery of the spirit world. It felt so beautiful. Ah che! Bao Bao, who was leisurely eating fruits, suddenly sneezed loudly. Strange, who was scolding Bao Bao behind his back. Bao Bao pinched his fingers and calculated. Isn't there still Little White? Little White definitely won't leave Xiao Ye's side. Don't forget that Little White is the Holy Mother Beast that specializes in taking care of children. Everyone on the continent knew how much the Holy Mother Beast loved children. They often took care of children more attentively than the children's biological parents. When the little master was taken away by bad people, the Holy Mother Beast would definitely protect the child. It wouldn't turn a blind eye and run away. So after everyone discussed for a long time, they all thought that this letter was sent by Little White. But there was another problem. When did the Holy Mother Beast have such a powerful ability to hide from so many people in the school? Was Little White that powerful? Although the legendary Holy Mother Beast wasn't a weakling, it wasn't a powerful beast, nor was it a magical beast known for its speed and stealth. If it was really Little White, how did it manage to hide from so many teachers and deliver the note to the school? This was a question that no one could figure out. Ajur was still discussing whether or not Little White was the one who delivered the note, but Xiao Yi had already begun his first shift. Feng Yi didn't know what he got people to paint on Xiao Ye's head, but Xiao Ye's hair turned black. He turned into a black-haired, black-eyed child with the bloodline of the ancient Eastern Kingdom. Afraid that Xiao Yi would spout nonsense, Hua Jin even got the maid to put sleeping pills in Xiao Ye's milk bottle so that he would sleep through the entire journey. Unfortunately, she didn't know that Xiao Yi had pure elven blood flowing in his body. Elves were immune to any harmful drugs. Xiao Yi and Steamed Bun pretended to fall asleep while Feng Yi arranged for a black-haired and black-eyed couple with Eastern bloodline to take Xiao Yi and leave Central City. In order not to attract attention, they definitely couldn't use the teleportation portal. The transportation they chose was very simple, which was an ordinary cargo ship. This couple with Eastern bloodline was sent by the Hound's mercenary group. In the Hound's mercenary group, there happened to be a couple with Eastern bloodline. In order to cover their tracks, they also brought along a 5-year-old boy. This boy also had an Eastern face. The little boy was just a prop that they had brought along to successfully send Xiao Yi away. They had already agreed with the little boy's parents that they would borrow their child once. They had even agreed on the remuneration and paid more than half of the deposit up front. This little boy looked very smart. His pair of black eyes kept dotting around. He didn't feel guilty at all when he called a pair of strangers his parents. It was no wonder that he could help his parents earn money at such a young age. "Mommy, is little brother still sleeping? When can he wake up and play with me?" The little boy adorably pulled the rather beautiful black-haired woman beside him. Little brother is still young, so he naturally sleeps a bit. You have to be good, don't wake him up, okay? The black-haired woman's face was filled with motherly radiance. If she didn't know that she couldn't be the mother of these two children, she would have believed that these two children were her own. This was acting. She was indeed a natural-born actress. That year when the opera house refused to accept her, it was their biggest loss. When the other guests on the ship saw this scene of a loving mother and a filial son, they all let out knowing smiles. There was also a woman with a child talking to the woman. The woman's performance was very perfect. She didn't reveal any flaws when talking to other women. Only when they entered the cabin did the woman and man return to normal. The expression of a loving mother and strict father on their faces was also completely wiped away. Boss's business is too strange. He just let us pick up this little devil. Where did this little devil come from? Could he be the son of some big shot? The woman sat at the head of the bed. She placed Xiao Yi in the middle of the bed. Meanwhile, the other child started eating as soon as he entered the room, completely ignoring what they were saying. Who knows? Either way, we're only doing this for the money. Who cares whose son he is? The man took out a roast chicken from his storage bag. He grabbed it with his hands and started eating without washing his hands. Eating the roast chicken was not satisfying enough. He took out a huge mug of beer and started drinking it with the meat. The smell of meat and wine wafted out of the small cabin. "You're right, after we hand over the goods, we'll take the money and leave. A while ago, a new set of magic equipment was put up in the store. With the money, we'll be able to buy it." The woman smiled charmingly as she recalled the magic equipment she had been eyeing for a long time. "It just so happens that I'm interested in a sword too. Let's go together. We might be able to get the boss to give us a discount," said the man. "Then let's go together. With my beauty, I don't believe the boss won't give us a discount." The man and woman chatted while eating. They completely ignored the 2 children in the cabin. The 5-year-old child seemed to be used to it. He ate the food in his mouth indifferently. The man and woman still had some conscience and gave him 2 wings. Naturally, the 2 big chicken legs were divided between the 2 of them. Xiaoyi pretended to be asleep. He was eavesdropping on the conversation between the man and woman. Where were they taking him? Were those bad guys trying to harm him? Didn't they say they were keeping him to deal with his mother? Why didn't they keep their promise? It's wrong to trick a kid like that. Don't think you can trick a kid just because he's young. Chapter 588. Xiaoyi pretended to be asleep as he listened to the couple's conversation. "Where are they taking me? Are those bad guys trying to harm me? Didn't they say they were keeping me to deal with Mom? Why didn't you keep your word? It's wrong of you to lie to a child like this. Don't think that you can fool him just because he's young." No one in the school realized that Xiaoyi had been taken away. The little bun had already been packed up and taken out of Central City, and the city was still frantically searching for him. Teresa had also thought that someone would take the little bun out of the city, so she had already informed the guards guarding the transportation portal, the docks, and the flying bee station that if they saw someone carrying a 2-year-old boy with white hair and black eyes trying to leave Central City, they must stop them and wait for a confirmation before letting them go. Teresa did not expect that the people who wanted to take the little bun had already come up with a plan. As members of the Notre Dame du Starlight, it was easy for Hua Jin and Feng Yi to find out what Teresa's plan was. Feng Yi had already made ample preparations to deal with Teresa's plan. Before Teresa received any news, the little bun had already been sent on a ship. No one knew where the little bun was being sent, but it could not be a good place. Feng Wu was still unaware that her baby had been kidnapped. She and Ming Shi were currently on their way to a place called Coral Island. It was a small island with beautiful scenery and abundant resources. There was a reason why Ming Shi and Feng Wu were going to this small island when they had already planned to return to school. Coral Island was a private island. The owner of this island was a madam named Noramanda. This madam was the Moon Empress' best friend when she was young. Later on, one of them married the owner of Coral Island, while the other married the Moon Emperor. As one of them lived on land while the other lived on the island, their contact gradually decreased. The 2 had not met for many years. Mrs. Normanda's husband had passed away in an accident not long after she gave birth to her son and daughter. Mrs. Normanda was a strong woman. She had taken care of her children and guarded the estate her husband had left behind all these years. Her life was not bad. This time, Ming Shi and the others went to Coral Island because the Moon Empress had received Madame Noramanda's distress letter. 2 days ago, black smoke suddenly emerged from the seawater surrounding the Coral Island. After absorbing the black smoke, many of the island's residents became bloodthirsty and cruel, and started a massacre on the island. Although those people were dealt with by the experts dispatched by Madame Noramanda, the matter was far from over. The black smoke continued to emerge from the sea, and most of the island's residents were infected by the black smoke, becoming increasingly inhumane. The originally peaceful island had become a purgatory on Earth. Madame Norman tried her best but was unable to prevent the people on the island from being corroded by the black fog. As for those who were not affected, Madame Normand immediately arranged for them to leave the Coral Island through a transmission array. Now, apart from the humans and animals who had lost their humanity due to the black fog, there were no other intelligent creatures left on the island. Due to the black fog, not only were the humans affected, but many of the island's magic beasts were affected as well. There were also the plants. Almost all the plants that were originally harmless ornamental plants became monsters that were more than 10 meters tall, brandishing their branches and leaves, and attacking every living creature they saw. As the owner of the island, Madame Normand had no choice but to take all the survivors and flee to another small island. Fortunately, Madame Normand had managed the island well over the years. She had also bought 2 smaller islands near the Coral Island, allowing the fishermen on the Coral Island to have a place to live. Otherwise, with so many people, it would be difficult to find a place to stay when they arrived at someone else's territory. Moreover, who knew how long they would have to stay there? That's how it is. I also don't know why the black smoke is emerging. Ming-Shi, this matter is too strange. You have a special identity, so it's better for you to go back. Really, Luli, why did she send you here? If something were to happen to you at Aunt Normand's place, Aunt Normand wouldn't be able to repay the sin even if she died. Normand sighed, wanting to persuade Ming-Shi not to participate in this matter. Although she was the owner of the Coral Island and wanted to save the villagers, innocent magic beasts, and plants on the island that were harmed by the black fog, Ming-Shi's identity was too special. She couldn't let anything happen to Ming-Shi on her island. If something were to happen to Ming-Shi on her island, she couldn't imagine the consequences. Aunt Normand, do you have no confidence in Ming-Shi? Ming-Shi smiled faintly. His smile was elegant and noble, as if there was a layer of golden light shining on his face. You know that's not what Aunt Normand meant. Normand frowned and sighed. She knew that Ming-Shi wasn't a child that could be persuaded so easily. I know that Aunt Normand is worried about me. I believe that Aunt Normand also knows that I'm not the type to act recklessly. If it's really beyond the scope of my ability, I'll immediately inform Father and let him send someone suitable over. All right then. Since you've said so, what else can Aunt Normand say? You have to remember what you said. If the situation doesn't seem right, then go back immediately. Madame Normand took a step back and temporarily agreed to let Ming-Shi stay behind to investigate the cause of the black fog's appearance and research a way to deal with it. Ming-Shi and Madame Normand were talking in the room, while Fengwu and Madame Normand's daughter were having lunch together. The lunch was very sumptuous. It was all seafood that was relatively rare in the sea. Fengwu happily gorged herself, without the slightest awareness of protecting her image in front of her master. Phyllis was Madame Normand's daughter. She was a very beautiful lady. She had been strictly raised by Madame Normand since she was a child. Her every move was as precise as if it had been measured with a ruler. When eating, how many times to chew for each bite was a habit engraved in her bones. Since she was a child, the women that Phyllis had come into contact with were all noble ladies like her. The so-called nobles all had a common problem, and that was that they cared a lot about their image. In front of outsiders, they would definitely show off their nobility, elegance, and extraordinary taste to the extreme, afraid that others would think that they weren't noble enough. Since she was a child, all the women that Phyllis had seen were as elegant as her. Every move of theirs was as graceful as a poem or a painting. Phyllis had never seen a woman like Fengwu, who would eat so much at the dining table. At the same time, she felt a faint sense of disdain in her heart. Fortunately, Phyllis's upbringing was good enough. She would never make such rude and vulgar actions as taunting or cursing. Chapter 589. Ever since she was a child, Phyllis had only seen noble women who were as elegant as her. Every action of theirs was as graceful as a painting. Phyllis had never seen a woman like Fengwu who could eat so much at the dining table. At the same time, she felt a faint sense of disdain for her. Fortunately, Phyllis had a good upbringing. She would never make such rude and vulgar actions as taunting or cursing. Fengwu ate very quickly. In a short while, she had finished all the delicacies on the table. Phyllis silently put down her cutlery. She had only eaten a few mouthfuls of fish and didn't feel full at all. I wonder if these dishes are to Miss Fengwu's taste? Phyllis knew that this girl was Ming-Shi's future wife. Even though she looked down on the other party's lack of elegance, at least she didn't show any displeasure on her face. It's very delicious. Fengwu looked at Phyllis and nodded seriously. The taste is a little bland. You can add a little salt here next time, Feng Wu said after thinking for a while. The grilled fish didn't seem to have enough salt. If only there was a little more salt, it would be even more delicious. Feng Wu thought with some pity. Phyllis. Shouldn't she say that the food was very delicious and thank you for your hospitality? This was the first time she had seen someone give such a serious suggestion. Miss Phyllis felt a little speechless. Is that so? When dinner comes, I will definitely remind the chef to add more salt in the food. Because our family of 3 is used to bland food, the chef is also used to cooking bland food. This is our negligence. I'm really sorry. Phyllis apologized sincerely. If it was someone else, she would have said a few polite words. But who was the Feng Wu girl? She had never understood these things. Naturally, she wouldn't say any polite words. It's okay. Just be careful next time, Feng Wu girl said. Phyllis. Can't we have a proper conversation? She suppressed her anger and told herself that she was an aristocrat and a lady. She had to be elegant and noble. She wasn't angry. She wasn't angry. After entertaining Feng Wu for lunch, Mrs. Noranda's son, Jerfman, just came back. Phyllis immediately threw the guest to her brother, and then went back to her room to rest with an unwell expression on her face. Jerfman. His sister was acting strange today. He couldn't understand her. As the future successor of Coral Island, there was no problem with entertaining Feng Wu. After circling around the island with Feng Wu, Jerfman realized that the girl seemed to have a special obsession with food. Every time she saw an ingredient that he casually said was very delicious, her eyes would sparkle. It was easy to understand what she was thinking at this time. Jerfman was a teenager with a relatively clear mind. He immediately took Feng Wu to see a lot of ingredients that could be made into food. He also took the Feng Wu girl to the island to enjoy the local snacks. The Feng Wu girl was satisfied. Her small belly was round. Of course, when she went back, she didn't forget to pack a portion for Ming Shi. Jerfman felt that if Ming Shi ate this pile of food, he wouldn't have to eat dinner and tomorrow's breakfast. After eating a big round, Jerfman said that he was full just by looking. Seeing that Feng Wu girl was eating too much, as a responsible host, Jerfman decided to take the Feng Wu girl to the seaside to digest. After arriving at the seaside, Jerfman was silent when he saw the Feng Wu girl catching crabs with a group of children. She still couldn't live without food. Looking at her sparkling eyes, he dared to bet a gold coin that all kinds of delicious crabs were playing in the Feng Wu girl's mind. Ah! A person suddenly appeared beside Jerfman, giving him a fright. Can't you make a little noise when you walk? Don't you know that you can scare people to death? Although he was complaining in his heart, the other person came to help him solve the problem, so he couldn't roll his eyes at him. Skycliff, where did you go just now? I took Miss Feng Wu around the island and didn't see you. Jerfman said. Skycliff also accompanied Ming Shi to the Coral Island. In fact, Ming Shi only brought 2 people. One was Feng Wu and the other was Skycliff. As Ming Shi's personal bodyguard, Skycliff naturally had to follow Ming Shi to protect him. Since coming to the island, Skycliff had disappeared without a trace. He didn't even have lunch with Feng Wu and the others. No one knew where he went until now, when he mysteriously appeared. I didn't go anywhere. I was just walking around. Skycliff was still as quiet as ever. His eyes were cold. Those who didn't know him would think that he was an emotionless iceman. Jerfman felt the chill in his face. Forget it, it's better to talk less. Why are you all catching crabs here? While Jerfman and Skycliff were silent, Ming Shi came over from the other side. Feng Wu glanced at him and threw herself back into catching crabs. I was just playing with Miss Feng Wu to help with digestion. Have you eaten lunch? Jerfman and Ming Shi were quite familiar with each other. After all, the 2 families had a good relationship. He also played with Ming Shi more than once when he was a child. It was just that they grew up and each had their own studies, so they didn't see each other much. I just ate a little. After Ming Shi finished speaking, he looked at Skycliff. Skycliff, I heard that you didn't have lunch with Xiao Wu. Well, I just wanted to walk around. Skycliff said coldly. Ming-Shi didn't have any other intentions. He was just worried that Skycliff might not have eaten lunch. Have you eaten lunch? Yes. Well, since he said that he had eaten, Ming-Shi believed that Skycliff had indeed eaten. I plan to go to Coral Island early tomorrow morning. Ming-Shi looked at the sky at a 45-degree angle. Okay, I'll go with you. I'm the future island master. You can't leave me out. Jerfman had already made up his mind. No matter who came, he would follow them to the island. After all, Coral Island was his family's property. If everyone in his family hid, it would be too outrageous if word got out. I was going to call you. We are not familiar with the terrain of Coral Island. If we don't have someone familiar with the terrain to lead the way, it will be really difficult to get on the island. Ming-Shi smiled indifferently. Of course, I grew up on Coral Island. Who can be more familiar with the island's environment than me? This was indeed true. As the young island master, Jerfman knew many secret places on the island that others didn't know. After all, the island was private property. Some places were not open to the public. Even the native islanders were not allowed to enter. Chapter 590. This was indeed reasonable. As the young island master, Jerfman knew many secrets about the island that others didn't. After all, the island was private property, and some places were not open to the public. Even the native islanders were not allowed to enter. Early the next morning, Ming-Shi took Fengwu and Skycliff to have an early breakfast and waited to go to Coral Island to investigate the situation. Jerfman brought along a few skilled guards who were selected to enter the Coral Island together. Madame Normand was worried about Ming-Shi's safety. These people were mainly sent to protect Ming-Shi. Ming-Shi knew that this was Madame Normand's good intentions and couldn't refuse, so he could only acquiesce. Fortunately, Coral Island had already established a teleportation array with Madame Normand's new island. There were about 30 people in their group. They entered the teleportation array in batches. After a few flashes of white light, everyone was teleported to Coral Island. This is Coral Island? Ming-Shi frowned as he looked at the plants in front of him that covered the sky and the sun, as well as the heart-chilling roars. In any case, he couldn't associate this place with the beautiful Coral Island. That's right. Whether it's plants, magic beasts, or even humans on this island, as long as they are corroded by the black fog, they will become different. Jerfman said, "What is the source of the black fog? Don't you have any clues? Did you send people to the bottom of the sea to take a look?" Ming-Shi asked again. The appearance of the black fog was too strange. Ming-Shi suspected that something else might have appeared at the bottom of the sea. "Your Royal Highness may not know, but Madam has already sent people to take a look. The seawater around Coral Island is too polluted. As soon as we sent people into the sea, they were immediately corroded by the seawater until not even dregs were left. Madam didn't dare to send people down to prevent everyone's sacrifice in vain. Although everyone knows that the source of the black fog is at the bottom of the sea, there is nothing we can do. No one can survive in the polluted sea water, let alone go down to check the situation." The one who spoke was Madame Normand's trusted aide. Madame Normand had specially sent him to check the situation on Coral Island because he was meticulous and loyal. Moreover, he knew a lot about the island. If Ming-Shi and the others wanted to go too deep into a dangerous place, he could stop them. It could be said that Lady Noramanda had thought of everything. She was just afraid that Ming-Shi would meet with some mishap on the island. Can't go into the water? She did not expect the problem to be so serious that he could not even go into the water to check. This was going to be troublesome. Did the black fog appear on the other islands nearby? Ming-Shi asked after pondering for a moment. No. Jerfman shook his head. They had inquired about this matter early on, and it turned out that their Coral Island was the only place that encountered such a strange thing. Did anything strange happen before the black fog appeared? Ming-Shi asked. Jerfman shook his head. If there were any abnormalities, they would not have to work so hard to investigate. Let's go. Let's take a look around first. The black fog would never appear for no reason. There must be some reason we don't know. There were no clues, but Ming-Shi was not disappointed. He let Zhifeng lead the way. He wanted to check the island's surroundings first. Feng Wu obediently followed behind Ming-Shi, but Xiaochun in his dantian was acting strangely. Leave this place. Leave this place quickly. It's dangerous here. Leave quickly. Xiaochun's somewhat immature voice suddenly sounded. There was a rare nervousness and uneasiness in his voice. Feng Wu, what happened? Xiaochun, there's something wrong with this place. I feel a strong aura surrounding this island. Although I don't know what it is, I can feel that it's very dangerous. It's not something you can deal with right now. Feng Wu, even you can't deal with it? Xiaochun, no, most of my purification ability comes from you. The previous things could be easily purified because their master's level was not as high as mine. That's why I could purify those bad auras so easily. However, the level of the things we encountered this time is too high. Before you reach the level of a warlock saint, I can't purify this place. Xiaochun's voice was anxious and fast. This was not in line with Ming-Shi's character, who wanted to rush up and eat whenever he saw something delicious. Xiaochun desperately tried to persuade Feng Wu to leave as soon as possible. The things here were obviously beyond his ability. Because Feng Wu, his master, was still growing, even his purification power had not reached its peak. What's wrong? Ming-Shi asked worriedly when he turned around and saw that Feng Wu's expression had changed slightly. There's danger here. Let's leave quickly. Feng Wu believed in Xiaochun's judgment. Xiaochun had always been Feng Wu's good partner and friend. Feng Wu would not hesitate to trust people she trusted. She looked at Ming-Shi seriously, hoping that Ming-Shi could leave with her quickly. No, I promised Mother that I would help Aunt Noramanda solve the problem on Coral Island. We can't leave yet. Are you afraid? Do you want me to send you back to Aunt Noramanda's place and wait for us? Ming-Shi said with a doting gaze. Feng Wu shook her head. Of course, she could not leave if Ming-Shi did not want to leave. She wanted to be with Ming-Shi. Why don't I send someone to send Miss Feng Wu back to my mother's place first? The environment here is really not suitable for a girl to stay. Zhifeng said. When Ming-Shi said that he wanted to bring Feng Wu along, Zhifeng did not agree. When they were introduced, he heard Ming-Shi say that Miss Feng Wu was just a second-year student at Notre Dame du Starlight. Her strength should not be strong. The island was so dangerous. Wouldn't bringing such a girl along be a burden? Now that Feng Wu proposed to leave, he certainly could not object. He even enthusiastically suggested it. I'm not leaving. I'll follow Ming-Shi. Feng Wu shook her head and said seriously. Ming-Shi patted her little head and did not say anything about letting Feng Wu go back first. On the other hand, Zhifeng was a little disappointed. He thought that he could finally send Feng Wu back first. He was afraid that Feng Wu would scream at the slightest thing. All the mutated creatures here were very sensitive to sound, and women were undoubtedly creatures that loved to scream the most. Fortunately, before entering Coral Island, Zhifeng had already told Ming-Shi and the others about some of the characteristics of the mutated creatures on the island. The people he brought with him were all veterans. Naturally, he did not have to worry about them doing anything that would arouse the hostility of the mutated creatures. Zhifeng was most worried about the Feng Wu girl. Although he observed that the girl did not seem to like to talk much, that did not mean that she would not scream. Zhifeng had always been on tenterhooks, afraid that the whole team would be screwed over by a woman. Chapter 591. Furthermore, he had brought some veteran soldiers with him. Naturally, he did not have to worry about them doing anything that would arouse the hostility of the mutant creatures. What Zhifeng was most worried about was the Feng Wu girl. Although from his observation, the girl did not seem to like to talk much, not liking to talk did not mean that she would not scream. Zhifeng had always been on tenterhooks, fearing that the whole team would be tricked by a woman. Feng Wu did not know what Zhifeng was thinking. If she knew, she would most likely prove very seriously that she was not a little girl who only knew how to cry and scream. She was very brave. Master said so. Just as Ming Shi and the others were exploring Coral Island, on a large ship, a beautiful woman in purple stood at the bow of the ship and looked at the island that was constantly emitting black smoke, her brows furrowing more and more. Are you sure your arm is under this island? Zicheng stood alone at the bow of the ship, with no one else around her. If someone looked at her, they would only think that she was talking to herself. The crew on the ship were already used to this beautiful employer. From time to time, she would talk to herself in a language that they could not understand. In this regard, they only glanced at her a few times and no longer paid attention. However, there was a young man whose eyes drifted to Zicheng from time to time, with an unobvious admiration and infatuation in his eyes. Hey, kid, what are you looking at? That's a Miss Mage. No matter what thoughts you have, you'd better put them away. Offending a mage is not a joke. An old crew member looked at the kid's eyes and knew that he was fascinated by the beautiful and noble Miss Mage. I don't have any other thoughts. I just want to be Miss Zicheng's follower. The kid was only in his 20s and was still very young. Because his talent was not good, he could only stay here and work as a crew member. 3 days ago, when he first saw Zicheng, he fell in love with her at first sight. As long as he could stay by Miss Zicheng's side, even if he could only be her follower for the rest of his life, he would have no regrets. Hee hee. The old sailor sneered. Another child who couldn't recognize reality. What right do you have to be Miss Zicheng's follower? Are you strong and talented? You have nothing. What right do you have to become the follower of a great magician? The young man's beautiful dream was ruthlessly crushed by the old crew member. Yes, it was not easy to become a magician's follower. He was just an ordinary young man with nothing. Why did he think that as long as he asked, Miss Zicheng would accept him? Where did his confidence come from? The young man took a deep breath. When he opened his eyes again, there was a trace of clarity in his eyes. Thank you. I almost misunderstood. The old crew member patted him on the shoulder, revealing a mouthful of yellowish teeth. It's good that you can figure it out. After that, he ignored the young man and went to the back cabin to work. Zicheng did not know that not far from her, there was a young man who adored her. He had just suppressed his thoughts. She was now discussing important matters with the devil ancestor. The devil ancestor was an unknown creature that she had awakened when she was doing a mission. Later on, the devil ancestor told her how he had been suppressed in the mirage. Zicheng felt that the devil ancestor was quite pitiful. He was the supreme being of the devil realm, but in the end, his position was snatched away by the fallen devil god. He fled to the human world and was treated as an invader by humans. In the end, he did not even keep his physical body. Only his soul was preserved and was sealed in the mirage. This Lord Devil Ancestor's life was simply a coffee table. After Zicheng heard the Devil Ancestor's story, she agreed to rebuild his physical body and let him return to the Devil realm. She used the system to exchange for a container that could hold souls. Then, she guided the Devil Ancestor's soul into the container and brought it out of the mirage. Even the Devil Ancestor himself did not expect that this little girl, who did not look very powerful, could bring him out of the place where he was sealed so easily. This was probably another cheat that the world's consciousness gave to the female lead. The reason why the female lead was able to become a heroine and goddess that everyone on the Heavenly Wind continent looked up to in the later stages was because of this Devil Ancestor. If she had not been so foolish as to believe the words of a devil and let the Devil Ancestor out, the Devil Ancestor would not have started a massacre in the human world and wanted to take over the human world for himself. Unfortunately, in the original story, the humans did not know that all of this was caused by Zicheng. Instead, they created a statue for her and worshipped her like she was their savior. Now, this had not happened yet. However, the Devil Ancestor was still released by Zicheng like in the original story. Now, she was busy rebuilding the Devil Ancestor's physical body. This king can sense that one of this king's arms is under this island. This arm must be retrieved. The Devil Ancestor's voice had a trace of devilishness. Just listening to the voice had endless charm. One could imagine that the Devil Ancestor's appearance was not bad. Among the devil race, there were many naturally ugly devils, but there were also many naturally beautiful devils. The devil ancestor was the first devil race to be born in this world. Naturally, his appearance could not be bad. If he was really ugly, the female lead would not have been sympathetic to him and agreed to help him rebuild his physical body and return to the devil realm. I understand. But how are we going to get it back? That island has already been sealed. Outsiders cannot go there. Zicheng said. I will go there personally. I will be able to get it back very quickly. My arm. On the other ship, the supporting female lead Irene had also come to this place. She did not want to stop the female lead from getting the devil ancestor's arm. With her small body, she was not a match for the devil ancestor. It was better not to do such a suicidal thing. The reason why she appeared here was because she had come with Feng Wu's brother, Feng Juntian. After Irene left the Blue Moon world, she was saved by Feng Juntian, who was out on a mission. Feng Juntian recognized that Irene was Feng Wu's classmate. On account of his sister, he could not save her. Because of Feng Juntian's treatment, Irene's body recovered very quickly. Every time Irene saw Feng Juntian, she would feel a sense of self-blame. Although Feng Wu was brought to the Blue Moon world by the Blue Moon Duke, she did not choose to bring Feng Wu with her when she escaped. This was equivalent to leaving Feng Wu to die in that place. However, she was saved by Feng Wu's brother. Every time she thought of this, she could not help but blame herself. She did not save the other person's sister back then, but now she was saved by Feng Wu's brother. This was a terrible debt that she could not understand no matter how she thought about it. She did not even dare to tell Feng Wu's news to Feng Juntian. She could not explain why she was able to escape and return, but Feng Wu was not. A few days ago, she did not know how to face Feng Juntian, so she was prepared to say goodbye and return to school. Unexpectedly, Feng Juntian received an urgent mission from the Star Hall, asking him to rush to the Coral Island to investigate the truth behind the changes on the island. Hearing about the changes on the Coral Island, Irene could not just leave. She knew that the reason for the changes on the Coral Island was because the Devil Ancestor's arm sensed the Devil Ancestor's birth, so it sent a signal to the Devil Ancestor. Chapter 592. A few days ago, she really didn't know how to face Feng Juntian, so she was prepared to say goodbye and return to school. Unexpectedly, Feng Juntian received an urgent mission from the Star Hall, asking him to rush to the Coral Island to investigate the truth behind the changes on the island. Hearing the news of the changes on the Coral Island, Irene really couldn't just leave. She knew that the reason for the changes on the Coral Island was because the Demon Ancestor's arm sensed the Demon Ancestor's birth, so it sent a signal to the Demon Ancestor. If they went to the Coral Island now, it was very likely that they would run into the Demon Ancestor. If they encountered the Demon Ancestor, there was an 80% chance that they would lose their lives on the Coral Island. Even if they were lucky and didn't encounter the Demon Ancestor, the Demon Ancestor's arm wasn't to be trifled with. The gas it released could cause all living things to mutate. Its power was so great that it could compete with the zombie virus in the apocalyptic world. In short, even if it was to repay the favor of saving her life, she really couldn't let Feng Juntian go to the Coral Island alone. Irene stood at the bow of the ship and sighed as she looked at the island surrounded by the black fog. She didn't know if it was the right choice for her to wade into the muddy waters. God, you must bless me and let me live from the hands of that great demon ancestor. After circling the island and killing who knew how many villagers who had turned into monsters, Ming Shi and the others still didn't find any clues about the changes on the island. Feng Wu followed behind Ming Shi the whole time. Unexpectedly, she didn't even scream. Moreover, she didn't ask for help when killing monsters. Her attacks were fast, ruthless, and accurate. She wasn't much worse than some of the experienced warriors brought by Jerfman. After circling the island without finding anything, several hours had passed unknowingly. Jerfman suggested that everyone withdraw first and discuss their next move, but Ming Shi felt that it was still early and that they should wait and see. In the end, everyone listened to Ming Shi and planned to circle the island 2 more times. This time, they specifically went to some suspicious and hidden places that people usually didn't go. Jerfman proposed to go to the edge of the cliff by the sea. There was a very hidden cave on the cliff that people usually didn't go there. Perhaps the source of the black fog was related to that cave. She was not familiar with the environment on the island, and of course, he did not know where the more secluded places were, so the job of leading the way fell to Jerfman. Everyone followed Jerfman to the edge of the cliff and found the cave he had mentioned. After searching the cave, they found nothing. There was no problem here, so Jerfman led the way to the next suspicious location. However, after walking for less than 10 minutes, Fengwu suddenly saw two bloodthirsty spirits bearing their fangs and claws. These two spiritual bodies were filled with baleful aura. Furthermore, they had no consciousness and were full of aggression. Shi and the others were completely unaware that there were two evil spirits that wanted to harm them. There were no necromancers in their group, so they didn't even notice the two evil spirits hovering in front of them. The only person who discovered them was the Fengwu girl. Fengwu not only discovered two evil spirits, but also many dead souls not far away from them. They wandered around the island in a daze, their eyes bloodshot and without any consciousness. Among so many undead, the two standing at the front had the strongest baleful aura, much stronger than all the other spirits. Fengwu thought about it and made a decision. Before the others could react, Fengwu pulled out her pure sword. The white sword light on the pure sword was very dazzling. The appearance of this sword light made the black fog in the vicinity dissipate a little, and those undead seemed to feel a natural fear and didn't dare to approach. "What's wrong? What happened?" Jerfman immediately drew his sword and asked when he saw Fengwu draw her weapon. The others were also on guard, but they did not find anything suspicious. "I say, Miss Fengwu, can we not joke like this?" Jerfman put away his long sword and waved for the others he brought to put away their weapons as well. "I'm not joking." Fengwu tilted her head in confusion. She was not joking, so why did this person say that to her? The Fengwu girl pursed her lips unhappily. "Xiao Wu, is there something special in front?" Shi knew the Fengwu girl better and knew that she would not joke at a time like this. It should be said that he had known the Fengwu girl for so long, but he had never seen her joke. The Fengwu girl nodded obediently. "There are many spirits in front. They have turned into evil spirits and want to attack us." "Miss Fengwu, you are a necromancer." Lady Noramanda's chief bodyguard, who was also her trusted aide, said with a face full of respect. The other warriors also looked at Fengwu in a different light. They all thought that Fengwu was a warrior like them. They did not expect her to be a dual cultivator of magic and martial arts. "What a genius!" "No," Fengwu said. "You are so humble." The others obviously did not believe her. She could see the spirits, so who could she be? In this world, other than necromancers, only people who used psychic potions could see the spirits for a short period of time. But Fengwu had been with them all this time, and no one had seen her use psychic potions. So the final conclusion was that Fengwu was a rare necromancer. Fengwu, was she humble? "Miss Fengwu, those things won't attack us, right?" One of the warriors was obviously very afraid of spirits. Now, his little face was pale with fright. "Yes, they will." In fact, they were walking towards them. Hearing this answer, the warrior who was afraid of ghosts felt terrible. His little face was pale as he hid in the crowd, refusing to show his face no matter what. "Xiao Wu, you want to purify them?" Shi thought of how Fengwu had pulled out the pure sword just now. He knew how strong the purifying power of the pure sword was. He had personally used this sword before. When the first problem occurred in Blood Moon Forest, he had borrowed the pure sword from Fengwu to solve it smoothly. "Yes." Fengwu nodded. Purifying these spirits would also benefit the pure sword, which was why Xiaochun was so interested in purifying these things. He had been pestering her to purify them since just now. "Miss Fengwu, so you know how to purify as well. Please do it quickly. If those things come to attack us, we will be in big trouble." The warrior who was afraid of ghosts jumped out to show his presence again. "I was just about to do it," Fengwu said. After saying this, she raised the pure sword. Using the purifying power of the pure sword, she waved the sword towards the spirits. The spirits immediately let out sharp and mournful screams. These screams made people's ears uncomfortable. Their hearts were scared, their backs were cold, and they felt uncomfortable. Some people even used their hands to cover their ears. This sound was simply too unpleasant. If they didn't cover their ears, they wouldn't be able to take it. Chapter 593. These screams made people's ears uncomfortable. Their hearts were scared, their backs were cold, and they felt uncomfortable all over. Some people even covered their ears with their hands. This sound was simply too unpleasant to hear. If they didn't cover their ears, they wouldn't be able to bear it. This sound was completely strange. No matter how hard you covered your ears, you could still hear the miserable screams. The pain that was branded in the soul made people feel a trace of panic and fear. Finally, the screams gradually disappeared, and the undead recovered their senses. They looked blankly at Ming Shi and the others, somewhat at a loss. Someone wanted to step forward and ask something. Only after taking a step forward did they remember that they were already dead. Thinking that they were already dead, these undead's faces turned gloomy. Although knowing that they were already dead was not a pleasant thing, the undead still politely thanked Feng Wu, and then dissipated into the sky one by one. They did not disappear, but rather reincarnated. Feng Wu had purified their souls, giving them the opportunity to reincarnate. Although Feng Wu was not a necromancer, she had also benefited a lot from helping the undead. The undead creatures disappeared one after another. The two that had been on Feng Wu's side at first and had the most murderous aura stayed behind. They looked like they wanted to say something, but stopped on second thought. It was obvious that they had something to say. Ming Shi saw Feng Wu staring at a place with a puzzled expression, so he asked her if something had happened. Feng Wu naturally would not conceal it from Ming Shi. She told Ming Shi about the two undead's abnormal behavior. Ming Shi guessed that the two undead might know something, so he let Feng Wu ask them. Feng Wu obediently began to ask the two undead why they were unwilling to leave. The two undead first gritted their teeth, somewhat embarrassed to speak. Finally, they told them a piece of news that surprised everyone. Of the two undead, one looked to be in his 50s, while the other looked to be in his early 20s. They said that they were father and son, and were just ordinary fishermen on the Coral Island. Not long ago, when the father and son were mining on the island, they dug out a cave that led to an unknown place. The father and son should have reported this matter to the higher-ups, but they were a little greedy and wanted to take some valuable things out of the cave before it was discovered. Although they were scheming, they never thought of hiding the cave. They just wanted to get some benefits before reporting it. What the father and son did not know was that their greed had harmed them and everyone else on the island. The father and son walked along the entrance of the cave. After walking for a long time, they finally reached the end of the tunnel. The end of the tunnel was underground. When the father and son reached the end, they found a 2-meter-long box at the end of the tunnel. The box looked very gorgeous, and it was even inlaid with many gems. The father and son were just ordinary fishermen. When had they ever seen such a precious gem? They were immediately dumbfounded. There was a white seal in the middle of the box, and the seal was filled with red magic incantations. If the father and son had not thought of taking advantage of the situation and had directly reported it, then with Madame Norman's knowledge, she would have discovered that it was a sealing scroll. Moreover, it was a very high-level sealing scroll. These scrolls were usually used to seal extremely terrifying monsters. However, the father and son did not have such knowledge. They only saw that the box was so precious, and thought that the things inside the box must be even more precious. Therefore, they only pondered for 3 seconds, before the father and son opened the sealing scroll together. Using a sealing scroll to seal a monster required a lot of power, but opening it didn't require that. Therefore, the father and son pair easily opened the sealing scroll on the box. When the scroll was opened, the father and son impatiently opened the box, wanting to see what treasures were inside. They did not expect that when the box was opened, they would only see a black mist rising into the sky. Then, they would not know what happened. The father and son were simply courting death. Moreover, before they died, they did not even see what was inside the box. Then, when they regained consciousness, they were already undead. The Fengwu girl purified their fiendish aura, allowing them to regain consciousness. What? So it was you two who brought disaster to our entire Coral Island. These warriors were so angry that they wished the father and son would die again. Because of their greed, so many people were killed and the Coral Island was in such a state. The death of these two people was truly not to be regretted. If they had not died, they would have caught the father and son and killed them in front of everyone to avenge their dead brothers and the villagers. The dead father and son desperately apologized to them. Unfortunately, apart from Fengwu, no one could hear their words or see their ghostly figures. Therefore, their apology would never be heard or accepted by the warriors. You two deserve to die. As the young island master, Jerfman also wished that he could dismember the father and son. Unfortunately, the father and son were already dead. Moreover, it was unknown whether their corpses were still there. Take us to the cave. Ming Shi was relatively rational. He did not waste time cursing. He just wanted to find the cave and solve the island's problem as soon as possible. However, he did not know what was sealed on this coral island that could turn the entire coral island into this state. This thing was by no means simple. The father and son were not really bad people. They just wanted to take advantage of others. They never thought of harming others. Now that they had harmed so many people, their minds were full of thoughts of making up for their mistakes. Because of this, even though they had been purified by Fengwu's pure sword, they were still unable to reincarnate. Hearing Ming Shi's request, the father and son immediately agreed without thinking. The father and son led Ming Shi and the others to the cave they accidentally discovered. They went into the cave and led the way to find the box. The father and son walked to the front, followed by Fengwu and Ming Shi. Ming Shi was afraid that Fengwu would be in danger, so he held Fengwu's hand and carefully protected her. Skycliff protected Ming Shi from behind. His responsibility was to protect Ming Shi, so he could not be too far away from Ming Shi. This passage was very narrow, only allowing one person to pass through sideways. Ming Shi and the others could only pass through sideways. The island was clearly filled with black fog, but there was no black fog in this place. The air was unbelievably clean. This was probably why Madame Normand sent Cheng Jing to search the island, but they were unable to find the source of the black fog. When searching, everyone would take it for granted that the source of the black fog was the thickest place. Who would have thought that the place without any black fog was the real source? Fengwu and the others walked for a long time before reaching the end. At the end of the passage, there was a very gorgeous-looking box, and the lid of the box was closed. From the gap in the box, they could see black fog constantly seeping out. The black fog did not rise into the sky, but instead seeped into the ground and disappeared. This strange sight made everyone frown. What do we do now? Why don't we reseal it? No one suggested to open the box. It was already scary enough that the box was only half closed. If they really opened it, who knew what kind of ghost would come out? Although it was unsealed, it was useless. The box had lost its seal, and whatever was inside could come out at any time. To the thing inside the box, there was no difference whether the lid was closed or not. "I'll seal it," Ming Shi said. As he spoke, he bit his finger and dripped a drop of blood. Then, he formed a complicated hand seal with both hands. As the crown prince of the Silver Moon ancient nation, Ming Shi had inherited the sealing enchantment power of the Moon Monarch. When it came to sealing techniques, no one could compare to the Silver Moon ancient nation. Aside from Ming Shi, the others stepped back and waited for Ming Shi to complete the seal. Sky Edge and Fengwu stood behind Ming Shi, too. They did not disturb him. They did not know what was inside the box. At this time, there was no movement at all. Was it not going to attack and stop the seal? No one thought so, but no one guessed that the thing inside the box was only an arm. No matter how powerful the arm was, it could not have its own consciousness. While everyone was anxiously waiting for the result, a mysterious person covered in black fog suddenly appeared from the ground. This mysterious person was surrounded by black fog, and even his eyes were not exposed. They could barely make out a figure. Ming Shi and the others felt as if they were facing a great enemy. This mysterious person gave them a very strong feeling. Just the pressure alone was enough to make many people fall to the ground. Although some people didn't fall to the ground, their faces were pale and they were in pain. Traces of blood flowed from their mouths. It was obvious that they weren't having a good time. Fengwu and Skycliff did not fall to the ground. Skycliff's mouth was bleeding. Obviously, he had internal injuries. Fengwu did not feel anything. The pure sword was a divine weapon, so it automatically protected its master. So, among the people here, Fengwu girl was definitely the most relaxed. Even Ming Shi, who had God's blood, could not help but turn pale. Ming Shi and the others thought that this mysterious person would attack them. They did not expect that he just waved his hand and took away the box used for the seal. Then, he disappeared from the ground. What? What's wrong with this person? Jerfman blinked in disbelief. He thought he was dead for sure. He did not expect to be so lucky to survive. I don't know. Let's get out of here first, Ming Shi said. Of course, the others did not have any objections. The group immediately left the cave by the way they came. After leaving the cave, everyone found that the father and son pair had disappeared. No one cared where they went. Whether they wanted to stay or reincarnate had nothing to do with them. Jerfman thought that he was very cultured not to find a necromancer to destroy them. Without the pollution source, Fengwu used Xiaochun's power to evolve the entire island. The mutated magical beasts and plants that had been eroded returned to their original appearance. But after the mutation, although the humans recovered, they could no longer live. Their bodies were still too weak. They didn't have a strong vitality compared to magic beasts and plants. When the black fog corroded their bodies, they had already died. Chapter 594. Without the source of pollution, Fengwu used Xiaochun's power to evolve the entire island. The corroded mutated magic beasts and plants returned to their original state. But after the mutation, although the humans recovered, they could no longer live. Their bodies were still too weak. They didn't have a strong vitality compared to magic beasts and plants. When the black mist corroded their bodies, they had already died. Under Fengwu's purification, the coral island was completely restored to its original state. At this time, Zicheng's black shadow had returned to his ship without anyone noticing. You got it? Zicheng asked, not surprised. Yes. The demon ancestor's mood was obviously very good. It seems that this trip went very smoothly. Zicheng smiled gently. He had never doubted the demon ancestor's strength. Now that he had lost his physical body, he could only display a third of his original strength. I met two very interesting fellows on this trip. One seems to be a descendant of the 4 great emperors, and the other is very special. Irene and Feng Juntian were about to think of a way to reach the island through the teleportation formation when a series of changes suddenly occurred on the distant coral island. The black fog that originally surrounded the island disappeared, and the mutated plants also disappeared, returning to their original state. The black seawater around the island also disappeared, and the seawater became blue again. When Feng Juntian brought Irene to the coral island, he saw that his sister Fengwu was also on the island. After that, the siblings, who had not seen each other for a long time, naturally sat together and chatted for a while. Irene was shocked to see Fengwu, who had not died in the Blue Moon world, appear alive in front of her. She never thought that Fengwu could come out of the Blue Moon world alive. The Blue Moon Duke was the second big boss in the book after the demon ancestor. This boss was not easy to kill, and the Blue Moon world was a world of its own. The only one who could escape from the Blue Moon world was the female lead who was cursed by the world's luck. If she had not hitched a ride with the female lead, she would not have been able to escape from that place. Fengwu didn't have the protagonist's aura, nor did she get a free ride. How did she escape? Irene was puzzled. She decided that when Fengwu was free, she would definitely ask Fengwu if anything else happened after she and Zicheng escaped. the matter of Coral Island had been resolved. As for what was inside the missing box, even Madame Noramanda, the island master, had no idea. No one knew what was sealed in the box. In any case, no one had the confidence to snatch the box back from the mysterious man. The most important thing was that they didn't even know who the mysterious person was. Even if they wanted to rob him, they couldn't find a place to do so. Noramanda didn't care about the box. As long as Coral Island could be restored to its former state, she would be very satisfied. After Fengwu and Ming Shi resolved the matter of Coral Island, the two decided to return to the academy. Irene was among them. Irene also had the idea of returning to the academy. Furthermore, she had not returned as soon as possible because her injuries had not fully healed. Furthermore, she was worried that her savior, Feng Juntian, would die on the island. Therefore, she did not immediately return to the academy and instead came to Coral Island. Before returning, Noramanda and her children entertained Ming Shi and the others. Feng Juntian felt that he did not help much and was embarrassed to stay on the island and accept their hospitality. However, when he thought of his sister, he did not want to leave so quickly. Therefore, he thickened his face and stayed. Before staying, he sent a letter back to the Star Hall and reported everything that happened on Coral Island to the higher-ups of the Star Hall. How the higher-ups would react was not something he should be concerned about. He just wanted to use these few days to accompany his sister. To be able to see her brother on Coral Island, the Fengwu girl was very happy. For the past 2 days, she went into the water with her brother every day to catch fish and crabs. Fengwu had already ravaged all the species of fish on the island. Not only did she eat until her belly was round, but she also packed Coral Island's specialty seafood. Feng Juntian was one of the Star Hall's star generals. He could not stay on the island to play for too long. After playing with his sister for 3 days, he had to return to the Star Hall to report. Fengwu and Ming Shi also set off on the same day as Feng Juntian. They chose to take a boat back to the central city. They could also enjoy the scenery on the sea. Fengwu did not know that her precious son had been missing for several days. Now, the entire academy was frantically searching for her son. The leisurely Fengwu girl fished and ate fish on the boat every day. Her days were very comfortable. After Irene found a chance to see the Fengwu girl alone, she finally found out the truth about how the Fengwu girl left the Blue Moon world. After finding out that it was Ming Shi who ran to the Blue Moon world to save her, Irene was somewhat envious. Speaking of which, whether it was Fengwu or Zicheng, they were both transmigrated girls like her. As the female lead, Zicheng had endless suitors. She also had an outstanding male lead who took care of her in every way possible. Although Fengwu was not the female lead, she had captivated the future Moon Emperor. Just this achievement alone was much better than the female lead. There was also that reincarnated Xia Zhua. She heard that he also had a girl he liked. Moreover, it was someone he liked from his previous life to this life. It seemed that she was the only single dog. This fact made her feel helpless. She took out a small mirror from her bosom and looked at herself. Impossible. She was clearly not bad looking. Why didn't she have a single suitor? This was illogical. As a single dog, Irene felt like she had suffered 10,000 points of damage. After returning to the academy with great difficulty, Irene wanted to go out and eat something good to comfort her wounded heart. She didn't expect to hear the big news as soon as she arrived at the academy. Fengwu's son had actually been kidnapped. And who was the person who kidnapped Feng Yi? Even after so long, they still hadn't found out. Fengwu knew that something had happened to Xiao Yi and was very anxious. She immediately wanted to go out and look for him. However, after seeing the note that Xiao Yi had left behind, she was no longer anxious. She calmly sat down and ate and drank. Her reaction was too abnormal. Ajur and the others were worried that the Fengwu girl was too traumatized and couldn't take it anymore. Xiao Wu, are you okay? Mo Gue carefully looked at the Fengwu girl who was gnawing on a chicken drumstick. Xiao Wu, you don't have to worry too much. Xiao Yi will definitely come back safely, Silda hurriedly said. That's right, Xiao Wu. You have to believe in everyone. With so many of us helping, Xiao Yi will definitely come back, Annika said with an expression of absolute trust. Rika looked at the mess and her heart tightened. Seeing Wu like this, she didn't say anything bad, which was rare for her. She sat alone and drank fruit tea. I believe that Xiao Yi will come back. He wrote a letter, didn't he? Feng Wu said with a straight face after gnawing on a chicken drumstick. It couldn't be. She actually believed the words written by that little fellow who wasn't even 2 years old. He was such a young child. How could she believe his words? Everyone fell silent. Ha ha ha. They suddenly didn't know whether to tell her not to be so careless or not to worry too much. Both choices made them feel conflicted. What should they do? In less than 2 days after Feng Wu's return, a bunch of seniors who had carried Xiao Yi before came looking for her. They comforted her in all sorts of ways and promised that they would definitely find Xiao Yi. They wouldn't give up until they found Xiao Yi. How dare they kidnap their Notre Dame du Starlight's mascot? They must have a death wish. What the hell was a mascot? On the 3rd day after Feng Wu's return, she received a letter. She didn't know where it came from, but her name was written on the envelope. When the old guard handed the letter to Feng Wu didn't know who would write her a letter. After opening the letter, the answer was finally revealed. This letter was actually written by the person who kidnapped Feng Yi. It said that if she wanted to bring Feng Yi back, she had to go to Sin City alone. If they found out that she had brought someone else with her, the person who kidnapped Feng Yi would immediately kill the hostage. Feng Wu thought for a few seconds, but still decided to go to Sin City to bring Xiao Yi back. It was best for children not to play outside for too long. Master also said that good children must come home on time. Where was the city of Sin? It was a paradise for the evildoers of the entire continent. There were no laws or restraints there. There was only the creed that only the strong were respected. In every big city, there were laws that prohibited magic and martial arts. Killing people in the city was also a serious crime. However, it was different in Sin City. There were no restrictions there. If you wanted to kill someone in the city, no one would stop you. As long as you were strong enough, you could kill whoever you wanted. In Sin City, there were all sorts of crimes happening every day. Stealing, robbing, and kidnapping were just a small matter. It was normal for people to kill each other. There was their own set of rules. If an outsider came to Sin City, there would be nothing left of them. In many cities, criminals who had committed serious crimes but were not sentenced to death would be sent to the city of Sin. These criminals were not allowed to leave the city. They were like everyone else. Whether they could survive or not depended on their strength and luck. In Sin City, the darkness of human nature was magnified to the extreme. Even children of a few years old had learned the unique way of survival. Although these children were young, they wouldn't lose to any adults if they were to be ruthless. In short, Sin City was an extremely dangerous place. For people who weren't strong enough, this place could be classified as an S-grade danger. The Feng Wu girl was going to enter such a city alone. Before going to Sin City, Feng Wu called back her irresponsible contract spirit, Liddy, and Bao Bao, who ran back to the spiritual world and disappeared. These two were definitely the most carefree contract spirits and beasts. They wandered around all day and hadn't been taught a lesson by their master. After finding 2 helpers and taking care of Xiaochun, the Feng Wu girl left a letter saying that she was going to pick up Bao Bao. Then, there was no then. After leaving the school, Bao Bao suggested that Feng Wu go to the Adventurers Guild to ask about Sin City. Many adventurers turned their attention to Feng Wu, who was such a cute little girl, asking about Sin City. Some even advised Feng Wu not to take things too hard. Once a cute little girl like her entered Sin City, she wouldn't even be left with a single scrap. Chapter 595. She found 2 helpers and took care of Xiaochun. The Feng Wu girl left a letter saying that she was going to pick Bao Bao up. Then, there was nothing else. After leaving the school, Bao Bao suggested that Feng Wu go to the Adventurers Guild to ask about the city of Sin. Many adventurers turned their attention to Feng Wu, who was such a cute little girl, asking about Sin City. Some even advised Feng Wu not to take things too hard. Once a cute little girl like her entered Sin City, she wouldn't even be left with a single scrap. Feng Wu sincerely thanked the others for their kind advice. Then, she decided to go to Sin City to pick up Xiao Yi and Little Bun. The city of Sin was a criminal's paradise. There wasn't even a teleportation array in the city. How could there be a teleportation array in a place filled with criminals? If anyone dared to step out of the teleportation array, they would be torn apart by the vicious criminals guarding the teleportation array in the next second. Without a teleportation circle to the city of Sin, the Feng Wu girl could only take the teleportation circle to the nearest teleportation circle to the city of Sin. After arriving there, she bought a ticket and boarded the Flying Beast carriage. She took the Flying Beast carriage to a small city near the city of Sin. A small city like this didn't have a teleportation circle. If she wanted to go far, she had to go to the relay station and take the Flying Beast carriage. On the Flying Beast carriage, there were all kinds of people. Feng Wu had money on her, so she asked for a single room. She didn't sleep on the shared bed. Some people on the carriage saw that Feng Wu was alone and dressed well. They wanted to hit on her. Those who didn't have eyes were all taught a lesson by Feng Wu. Now, they all took a detour when they saw Feng Wu. They didn't have the arrogance they had when they boarded the beast carriage. The smart Bao Bao and Liddy weren't worried about their little master's safety after knowing that he was kidnapped. Bao Bao guessed Feng Ye's identity. No matter who kidnapped Feng Yi, he didn't think that anyone could kill Feng Yi, the reincarnation of the Elf King. Although Liddy wasn't sure of Feng Ye's identity, she could already feel that her little master wasn't an ordinary person. Staying by his side would be very beneficial for her cultivation. Liddy expressed her deep condemnation and anger towards the bad guy who kidnapped her little master. After a long discussion, the spiritual creature and the beast agreed that the kidnapper was someone who hated Feng Wu very much. These two people had been missing for a long time and had no contact with Hua Jin, but they still knew who he was. He wanted to kidnap Xiao Yi and send him out of the city quietly. He was also capable of sending the child to a place like Sin City and even setting a trap there. No matter how they looked at it, among all of Feng Wu's enemies, there was no one else who could do this besides Hua Jin. Eve wanted to kill Feng Wu all day long. Unfortunately, she didn't have the strength and influence to do so. Although Rika hated Feng Wu, based on their understanding of her, she wasn't a woman who would lay her hands on a child. These two people couldn't be related to Sin City. Therefore, after much thought, the only suspect they could think of was Hua Jin. However, even though Hua Jin was rich and powerful, it seemed impossible for her to have any connections with Sin City. Hua Jin was bent on becoming the Moon Empress, so it was impossible for her to take the initiative to provoke someone from Sin City. If news of him colluding with Sin City was exposed, how could he become the future Moon Empress of Silver Moon Ancient Kingdom? Therefore, although Hua Jin was the most suspicious, there was a possibility that she wasn't the culprit. After much thought, Hua Jin was still the most suspicious. Let's not think about it anymore and focus on the most suspicious person first. Hence, the spirit and beast irresponsibly listed Hua Jin as the most likely suspect. Hua Jin still didn't know that he had been irresponsibly targeted so easily. So, it's Hua Jin. It must be Hua Jin. Liddy grabbed Feng Wu's arm agitatedly. She's the most suspicious, said Baby. Why did she kidnap Xiao Yi? Feng Wu asked, unable to figure it out. To lure you out, of course. This was the explanation Baby came up with. We clearly see each other often. Why did she use such a method to meet me? Feng Wu was even more puzzled. What a strange person. We clearly see each other every day. Why did she use Xiao Yi to lure me out? The Feng Wu girl wondered, perplexed. She must have lured you out to kill you. You two see each other every day in school, but she can't possibly kill you in front of so many classmates. How can she kill you if she doesn't lure you somewhere else? Baby rolled his eyes in exasperation. It had been some time since they last met, but the Feng Wu girl had not improved at all. Kill me. Feng Wu thought for a moment. I don't think I've offended Hua Jin. Baby could not help but roll his eyes. He explained in detail how Hua Jin liked Ming Shi and how he wanted to be the Moon Empress. The Fengwu girl finally got the hang of it. She wants to kill me just because Ming Shi doesn't like her? Fengwu pursed her lips. Something like that. Baby and Liddy nodded in unison. The three of them discussed Hua Jin's issue all the way until the Flying Beast car arrived at the terminal. After alighting from the Flying Beast car, the Fengwu girl bought a horse and rode it towards Sin City with a map in hand. The Fengwu girl did not know that when she first set off for Sin City, Ming Shi and the rest had seen Fengwu's message and were looking for her everywhere. They had heard from the guard at the gate that someone had sent a letter to Fengwu. Only then did they think that Fengwu might have received news from the mastermind and left in a hurry. However, no one could guess where Fengwu had gone, so they could only ask around in the city. Fortunately, Ajur was lucky enough to meet the Ting Feng and Ting Yu siblings. When the siblings heard that Fengwu was missing, they provided him with useful information. Before Fengwu left, she had asked around about Sin City. What kind of place was Sin City? Was that a place where a good girl would go? Ming Shi and the rest were anxious. Ming Shi immediately chased after Hua Jin with Skycliff. Ajur and Mo Gue also applied for leave and chased after them. Silda and the rest also wanted to help, but Ming Shi politely rejected them. Sin City was not a place where girls should set foot in. It was extremely inconvenient to bring them there. It was very likely that they would get into a conflict with others to protect Fengwu before they could find her. This would be extremely disadvantageous for their rescue mission. Silda and the rest knew that they would be a burden if they went, so they did not insist on going. They reluctantly stayed behind to wait for news. Although Ming Shi and Ajur gave chase as fast as they could, they were still slower than Fengwu and did not get into the same Flying Beast car as Fengwu. Chapter 597. Just as the boss was about to push the door open, a few more people popped out from the side. It's not a good habit to eat alone. Mother Fastris Kerr, when did you guys get here? The boss was shocked and cursed in his heart. We came a little later than you. The newcomers laughed coldly. Why are you guys here? Did those guys call you guys over as well? The boss asked suspiciously. Just like you, we're here because we're paid. Since everyone's mission is the same, why don't we work together? Once we're in the room, we'll go up one by one. Since they were all here for the same mission, there was no other way. They didn't know who this woman offended to find so many men to toy with her. However, this had nothing to do with them. How could anyone who could live in the city of sin and develop their own power be compassionate and kind? After discussing, the few men walked into Fengwu's room. Within 15 minutes, there were 7 men lying around in Fengwu's room. All of them had their third leg broken. The Fengwu girl didn't hold back at all. Her master had said that if she encountered bad people who wanted to take advantage of her, she should directly break their manhood. When Fengwu attacked, she was fast and ruthless. These men didn't even have a chance to react before they were turned into eunuchs by Fengwu. When these men woke up from the intense pain, they saw a little magical beast with an eggshell on its head floating in the space in front of them. This little magical beast was very cute, but it looked at them with a hint of schadenfreude. Tell me, who sent you here? Bao Bao saw that these men had woken up and flew in front of them, asking without holding back. The men looked at each other and didn't say anything. They were also people with some power in the city. If they confessed everything, how could they survive in the city in the future? Bao Bao sneered. If you don't say anything, then we don't need to keep you alive. After saying that, he gave the Fengwu girl a look. The Fengwu girl nodded and walked over with a dagger in her hand. There was not a trace of hesitation in her calm eyes, which made these people feel uneasy. Was this girl really the same as the information given by those people? Was she just an ordinary student? And a second-year student at that? No matter how he looked at it, she was a veteran who killed people like flies. Looking at her calm eyes and her sword-wielding hand, it was so steady that it did not tremble at all. This meant that this was not the first time she had killed someone. Perhaps the number of people she had killed was no less than theirs. If they had known that they were going to deal with this kind of little pervert, they wouldn't have accepted the mission just for some benefits. These people cursed the person who hired them and gave them the wrong information in their hearts. Don't. We'll talk. We came here because we accepted the mission. We really don't know who gave us the mission. The leader who first stood outside Feng Wu's door immediately told them everything he knew. He had killed countless people, but it didn't mean that he wanted to become a dead man. Although they might not let him go if he told them, if he didn't, he would definitely die. You guys too. Bao Bao turned his gaze to the others and signaled Feng Wu not to make a move first and to observe first. Feng Wu stood behind Bao Bao with her dagger. She did not make any moves to attack, which made these people sigh in relief. The others immediately nodded, afraid that the person and beast in front of them would kill them if they were too slow. What's the mission content? Bao Bao asked again. These people did not dare to hide anything and obediently told Feng Wu and Bao Bao everything they knew. It turned out that in the city of Sin, there was a black market. Somewhere in the black market, it was a place where missions were given and accepted. These people in the black market accepted the mission to destroy Feng Wu's innocence without harming her life. There were all kinds of strange missions in the black market. The people who accepted this mission did not care. After all, the mission was simple and there were benefits to be gained. Hence, some people who were interested in this mission accepted it. Usually, a simple mission with good rewards like this would not be accepted by small people. The few people who accepted this mission were not ordinary people. They were considered to be people of status in the black market. Some people wanted to accept it, but their status was not high enough. They were not qualified to compete with these people. If they had known that they were not going to face a little sheep who had not graduated from school, but a legendary monster wearing sheepskin, they would not have rushed in without bringing others. They had thought that the main purpose of coming to this room was to have sex with a woman. They had not expected that they would become prisoners and even have their manhood broken. If they could leave this place alive, just the money needed to treat their manhood would not be a small amount. This business was simply too bad. After Bao Bao asked everything he wanted to know, the Feng Wu girl raised her sword and walked over. Although there was no murderous intent in her eyes, her actions said everything. You didn't keep your word. You said that you would not kill us after we told you everything. These people shouted like crazy. Hey, don't talk nonsense like that. When did Bao Bao say that I would spare your lives if you were serious? Bao Bao won't take the blame for this. Bao Bao impolitely glared at these people. These people thought for a while, and it seemed to be the case. Oh, this strange little magical beast and that strange girl who didn't speak actually didn't say anything like not killing them. These words were just made up in their minds. Feng Wu used her dagger to stab a hole in each of their hearts, sending these bad guys to hell. Feng Wu would never be merciful to such bad people. Her master had said that letting these bad people go would only harm more people. Therefore, when she encountered these bad people, she should kill them if she could. She must not give them another chance to commit crimes. The Feng Wu girl was an obedient girl, especially when it came to her master's words. As long as it was her master's words, she would remember them in her heart and review them from time to time. After killing these people, Feng Wu also dealt with the small fries guarding outside. Fortunately, these people thought that they had entered the room to play with women, so they didn't want to make too much noise. They even put up a soundproof enchantment, which created an opportunity for the Feng Wu girl. They couldn't even call for help and just hung in the Feng Wu girl's room. Before they died, they even became eunuchs in the heavenly wind continent. After dealing with all the enemies, the Feng Wu girl destroyed the corpses. It was not to destroy the corpses. Yesterday, these people had made a lot of noise when they entered her room. It was impossible to hide it. Destroying the corpses was impossible. The reason why the corpses were destroyed was because the Feng Wu girl and Bao Bao felt that the corpses were too ugly to be placed here. After the corpses were dealt with, this room naturally could not be stayed any longer. In the middle of the night, Feng Wu ran to the front desk to change to another room. Seeing her come down from the room, the staff at the front desk looked at her differently. you're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.